Welcome, everybody. It's Friday night. What else could you possibly be doing? Good to have you with us. I'm Dan McDermott, your humble host, and let's get to our panel, or gang, whatever you want to call them. We have Pam Adger. Welcome, Pam. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing quite well, thank you. Everything going well in Menifee?
Everything is going well. It's hot and humid, but other than that, it's all good.
All right, cool. And we have Mr. Michael Ellis. Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Dan.
You're headed to Virginia in 3 weeks or so. And where are you now? Are you at your house?
I'm in New York at the moment, and it's gorgeous here. It was an absolutely beautiful day, and I spent the entire day inside, unfortunately.
If you could pay your mortgage with frequent flyer miles, you'd be a lucky man.
I would. That's very true. But it's not the case. They won't. I tried that. They won't accept them.
Now, you've met Alan, but you haven't met Pam, right?
I've not met either one of them.
Oh, you guys should hook up sometimes.
I've offered, but I think he's reticent. I think he's a little afraid of me.
Who's taller?
I'm afraid of Pam.
Alan, how tall are each of you?
I don't know, about tall, give or take.
Michael's actually afraid of me, not Alan.
That I could believe.
I'm not afraid of Alan. I'm afraid of Pam.
That I could believe. But Alan, you're like 6'3" or 6'5" or some ridiculous thing.
Oh, he's not 6'5".
Freak.
6'1 3/4", Dan.
So that's more than 5'7".
Yes, that's more. That's right. That's how the math.
We're glad you know your measurements.
I was a math whiz. Alan Furstenberg in an undisclosed New York location. How are you, sir?
Peachy keen, Dan.
He's just being nice to me in the beginning, and then the show begins.
Look, as long as you don't say anything wrong, you won't be yelled at by me. It's very simple.
Indeed. Okay, so a programming note. I am extremely tired because our paper was delayed. We had issues in North Carolina. I was worried we weren't going to get it out until Sunday morning, but Martinsburg, West Virginia pulled through, and we're only going to be 24 hours late, so I'm excited about that. It's a great issue. If it's on my profile, there's an article about the regional jail that is absolutely hilarious. It's a must-read about all the stuff that's screwed up at the jail. You got to read it after our show. And then the second thing, I will be on the Virginia Talk Radio Network at 11:07 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, the 26th of July. And I record that and post it afterward if you miss it. 8:07 a.m. Pacific Time tomorrow morning. And I'll be discussing, I think we're discussing the plane crash. I'll find out a couple hours beforehand and cram so I can sound like I'm smarter than I am. And finally,
great appointment radio. You should make an appointment, put it on your calendar, and definitely tune in to listen. It's very good.
Oh, you like it? For real?
I do. Yeah, I really do like it. I'm not kidding. I really do like it.
Cool, yeah.
I could have just made it up, but I didn't have to say anything.
They get a lot of views. They get, I just threw it up on YouTube. It's just audio, and I just put his picture when he's talking, my picture when I'm talking. And the first one I did that got like 450 views, and this one was up to a couple hundred when I last checked. I don't know what it's up to now. You know, what the hell? If people like it. So also, I just wanted to get your reaction. I don't know if any guys knew. It's not on the topic list. Just a quick hit topic. Joshua Topolsky, who is a wonderful writer and great on camera, has left The Verge and gone to Bloomberg. So it's The Verge's loss, the Bloomberg's gain. I love The Verge. It's some of the best writing. He was the head editor there. And so now Nilay Patel, who's another just wonderful, witty writer, smart as a whip and funny, and is very engaging. I've talked to him multiple times on Twitter and stuff. And he's an attorney, but he left for Vox, which is the parent company, and then now he's back as in the lead editor position at The Verge. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think the world of both of those guys. So, you know, this happens. I think Josh was at Engadget before The Verge and somewhere else either before or after that, before The Verge. But are you guys fans? I mean, do you know who I'm talking about? I would guess.
I don't know the names of the people you're talking about, but I know the organizations that you've described. The Verge is great. The Vox is good, I think. I mean, I read things from both of those. I'm having a hard time making the adjustment to finding my original source for news being consistently the same online websites instead of newspapers. I'm old and I'm used to newspapers. I'm having a hard time making the change.
In traditional news, like the flight that was shot down,
Malaysian
or
flight.
Washington stuff, it's traditionally been newspapers or magazines that would break that stuff, and then everybody else would write the story, the TV, you know. But and sometimes national TV. With tech news, it's very different. It's often these websites that get the leaks and actually origin. But you're right; it's hard to track down the. You know, when you're trying to credit the original source, if you credited everybody in between, you'd say, you know, via Mashable and Engadget and
Yeah.
the LA Times and like 16 other things, and
There'd
via
be
this
no
guy
room
on
left
Twitter and Dan who mentioned it to me, you know, I mean, but you don't want to. That's the thing, you know. If you see something here and you want to credit them, but anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about Google Plus stuff and Google stuff. And the first topic on here is that Chromecast is, I guess, a year old. I should have gone to my housekeepers and gotten mine back so I could hold it up because I don't use it. And we could use Craig's, but he doesn't use it. So
Did you give your housekeeper?
I loaned it to my housekeeper almost a year ago. And
That's kind of like giving it, isn't it?
well, I mean, my TV's hooked into my computer. I don't have a TV that's not connected that has HDMI. So you really don't need it under those circumstances. The only reason you would need one, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, but the only use case I can think of is if you have a television that's not hooked up to a computer, as most people in the, you know, it's in their living room, and your wife would never allow you to have a computer next to it, the wires, you know, and so you can turn that into a smart TV. It's great for that. But if you have a television that's hooked in your computer, there's nothing I can't do. It's connected via Ethernet, and it's a smart TV, so I could use the built-in apps, which suck. So I just drag a Netflix screen over or whatever. But the Chromecast is genius, you know, especially that with the new, you can toss a slideshow to it. So if you were doing a presentation about something, Michael, on a business trip, you could actually bring an your own router, just to be on the safe side. I don't know if no, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting in the weeds here. But you could bring the thing, and you could toss your presentation from your phone. I could use it. Now you can mirror your device. I don't know if you can mirror iOS, and I think you can mirror Android. I'm not sure. But like if I wanted to do a demo in this program, if I didn't have you guys plugged into my TV input, my HDMI input, I could plug in the Chromecast, and I could do a demo of something and switch, just like I switched between Alan and me. I could switch between my phone, and you'd see exactly what I was doing. It'd be a great way to do a demo. Alan, you can correct like the 17 things I probably got wrong there.
No, but I think you're emphasizing the wrong things. But you know, that's okay. I think the big deal about showing slideshows from your phone, okay. I don't think that's so big a deal, to be honest. I think the features that they've announced that are coming, things like being able to automatically show slideshows from any drive folder, being able to select sources of the what we now think of kind of as a screensaver. Those are all really exciting capabilities that are coming, and just basically the concept of Chromecast and how it's vastly superior to things like Google TV and Android TV for what amounts to an incredibly good price. I mean, I can't pull out and show you my Chromecast right now because it's sitting on the TV in front of me. And usually during this show, it's sitting on the TV in front of me, showing this show, so that I could preview, so that I could see what's going on, without tying up more resources on my computer itself.
Oh.
And that's really the big deal of the Chromecast, is that instead of wasting your computer's resources or wasting your phone's resources, you've got this little stick, and it's doing all of the work for you. And that's an incredibly powerful tool.
And just to clarify, it is a huge hit. My housekeeper babysits sometimes and has relatives or friends, kids come over, and so she uses it for Netflix for that. She actually got Netflix because I loaned her the Chromecast, and her brother.
Is that right? Really?
Her brother has like 4 kids or something, 3 to 5 kids, whatever it is, and they all have TVs in their room, and he got each of them a Chromecast. So it's a hit, and I think a lot of it is the price point, and it's a handy little device, and it does, it does Netflix, it does the key things you'd use. It doesn't do everything, but if you have a TV that's not connected to the internet, but it has an HDMI input, it's an absolute genius television. It turns your television into a Netflix.
Dan, here's the thing. I think even if you do have a so-called smart TV, Chromecast is vastly superior to it.
Why?
Because Chromecast changes the way you think about how you approach television. I mean, if you look at smart TVs, it's all about pointing the remote and cursoring around. Cursor, 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 click. Cursor, 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 click. Cursor,
curse.
What?
I think it's mostly just curse.
Yes. Whereas with the Chromecast, it kind of turns it on its head a little bit. So now you start, whereas before you were essentially cursoring around trying to find an application or trying to find a show or trying to find whatever, now you're starting with, you already know what application you're going to run, and you run it. And then you use that tool to find the show that you want.
Interesting. What you just described is object-oriented television.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
And in fact,
I've never heard it described that way, but that's exactly what it is.
Yes, it is.
Pam and I totally figured that out before Ellis did. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, great.
Well, what I think the Chromecast has done is just kind of turned around and said, look, this concept of running an application on your TV, it again takes this concept of we are so used to an application-oriented world. And it's the first step in trying to change that. And I think the Chromecast has a ways to go, but I think it's the only one that's actually trying to change that attitude, and I think it's a good move.
Yeah. I had one. I bought one right away as soon as it came out, and I got all excited about it. And then, but I got severely disappointed by it as well, because my use case was to use it in a hotel where they didn't have smart televisions, which was almost always the case in the mid-tier hotels I was staying in. And what I didn't realize is that you would have to log in to the hotel's landing page to connect to Wi-Fi, and the Chromecast offered no mechanism to do that. So the only situation where the Chromecast could be used is from your home. You couldn't use, or excuse me, from an office location or a home location that had no special landing page or signing in process. And so I took the Chromecast, and after 24 hours, I was like, I used some rather bad language, and I put it in the mail and sent it to someone else.
Yes, and that's a very distinctive problem, but
I think
I'm not even going to append a but to that. Yes, it's a problem.
an unusual use case, I suppose. Actually, I think there's lots of people like me that would have used it had it worked, but it doesn't work, so it's also not the market that they were going after.
No, but it's a common enough use case. I mean, you see lots of people, go and watch Netflix from their hotel room on their tablet.
Yeah, and I would have loved to do that. That's exactly what I wanted to be able to do, and I think lots of people would want to be able to do that, but you can't do it with a Chromecast.
You can't do it yet with a Chromecast, and I hope at some near future time they fix it, because there's certainly no reason why it couldn't.
That was always my impression, but they didn't even understand the application when I called for support. It was just crazy.
I mean,
Cadeas, I'm sorry, Cadeas, you're trying to get on. You're actually. It sounds like you've muted it in the Hangout. If you're trying to test for your audio.
No, I was making sure I got the wave pattern. So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead, guys.
So I'm excited about it that it's a year old and it is wildly successful, because I think it's cool what it does, and I want one. But now I'm kind of stranded at home due to the medical problem, and I don't have a television. So then I'm thinking about, should I get a television? If I have a television, should I have a Chromecast? Because then I'd need to be able to, then I'd be able to watch Netflix on a television instead of this Pixel.
That's what I was thinking, Alan. Is that practical, that it would work well with hotel Wi-Fi? Or I don't. I've been in a hotel in a long time. When you go,
it doesn't at the moment, and that's an issue. But that's one of those issues that hopefully they will solve sooner rather than later. It's not an unsolvable problem.
Netflix should come out with a hotel Wi-Fi version that's basically a slideshow. It shows like every second it updates what's going on.
Oh my God, no.
The movie. And you could see, like, it'd be 5 shades of gray.
It'd be like Auto Awesome of videos from Netflix.
Did you guys see that 50 Shades of Grey trailer?
No.
I'd be scared to go in the theater with that thing playing. Good Lord. Couple comments. I want to do a couple comments here, but I wanted to ask Alan, the title, the 400 plus million cast sessions, are they talking about on 400 million occasions someone has used the Chromecast, or are they talking about 400 million people?
I have no idea.
It sounds like some obscure crap that they would throw out at I/O,
Well, it also sounds like a number that's used to make it look wildly successful, and it could be that there's 12 people using the thing and they all watch television all day long.
But they're hardcore users.
Right.
Okay, so...
yeah, I'm probably one of those hardcore users, though.
Are you?
That's all I ever use. Yeah, I love Chromecast.
Kirill says, Virginia Radio, can we have a link? Okay, the URL, it's actually virginiatalkradionetwork.com, and you can click on any of the stations. It's at 8:07 a.m. Eastern U.S. time. I'm sorry, 11:07, thank God, because I will not be cognizant at 8:07 tomorrow morning. 11:07 a.m. Eastern, and then 8:07 a.m. Eastern West Coast time. It's also posted on Huffington Post, and I think they stick it under media, and it's under it's on my YouTube channel if you want to see. I post it each week. So, and Florian says, talking about media, you should try RT Russia Today. It's even more hilarious than American media. That's interesting. There was a small newspaper in Moscow that actually published a front. I don't want to get off on this topic, but a front page editorial apologizing to the Netherlands for the shooting down the plane. So we'll see how long that paper lasts. It's a liberal paper with a small audience, mainly readers in Moscow, but that was kind of interesting. Okay, so Chromecast is a year old. Congratulations. 400 million cast sessions, whatever the hell that means. Sounds
So let's hear
impressive.
more about Cadeas's thoughts on Chromecast.
Yeah, what do you think, Cades?
I love Chromecast. I mean, that's really it. It does everything I wanted to do, and it does it pretty flawlessly. I think they fixed everything that I had a complaint about. So yeah, I like Chromecast. I don't see anything negative about it. What'd you say?
Can I ask you a question about it? You use it now. My sister has one that she bought on my recommendation, and she struggled with it quite a lot. Because I said, I think it's great if you're not in a hotel. I think it's a very cool device.
We're in the same boat. I've told many people about its attributes and bragged about it and said it's a great device. It's just not my use case scenario. I don't really need one.
Right.
But my housekeeper loves it, and like I said, her brother bought one for each kid's bedroom. I mean, it's if it applies to you, it's perfect. You know.
Well, what my sister had trouble with, Cadeas, was streaming things that were started from. I may get it wrong. I may not have it right, so please don't quote me on this. She was having trouble launching things from her tablet and sending them to the Chromecast. Things were jittery, and it was either the tablet she was having trouble with, or the computer, or the phone. I don't know.
Well, I actually know. I've been down this road, and
okay.
What I've learned with this is that because it's not the tablet or any of that. What it is that it's your Wi-Fi connectivity is the issue. If you at least with all the setup that I have, supposedly Chromecast runs at 5.0 gigahertz. I can't seem to get it to run at that, so it's running at 2.4, and that's really, really noisy over here. So I had to do a lot of repositioning on my Wi-Fi antennas and stuff just to make it so the Chromecast runs smooth. Before I lived where I live now, I was able to use Chromecast flawlessly with no problems, but because of this location, there's tons and tons of noise, and 2.4 gigahertz has issues, period. So, but I've cleaned it up a lot, and so I mean, I know Chromecast works 100% because it worked before I moved here, and now that I'm here, I had a lot of 2.4 issues. So the jitteriness generally comes because literally Chromecast, you're sending these stuff to the Chromecast, and the Chromecast is going to the web or going to wherever and pulling it there. So really, if there's any issues in between the Chromecast and wherever it's connecting to, and so generally that's
what
why
I kept saying, that after you launch it, there's no more involvement with the device that you started from.
Right.
All of it comes from the Chromecast. That's what I was trying to explain to my sister. She, of course, thinks I'm a nincompoop, so that doesn't get me anywhere. So perhaps I can refer her to you to say the exact same thing I said. She'll believe.
Well, we got
me.
it recorded, so you can just send it to her.
Yeah, get the timestamp from the minutes, and
Diane's got some game. I gotta fix this. I'm off center here. I want to be here.
Yeah, so that's why the Chromecast. That's why I like the Chromecast. I use it for HBO Go, Hulu Plus, YouTube.
That's not gonna work.
I want to watch and then walk away in it streams. I think we were using it at one time. We were using it for Watch ESPN just for that short time that the games were going on. I think that's it. The Google Plus Photos things doesn't work very well, so I very rarely use that.
What did before? Like to put your pictures up on the computer, on the TV screen
I have a lot of video that I've uploaded to Google Plus, and so I like to have that play, but it takes almost 5 minutes sometimes to get that stuff to start running to the point that I don't do it. So it's not even worth it. I'll just gather around a laptop or something. Reshare my screen.
That's something I might buy. I might actually go out and buy a television to have, is the ability to constantly have photographs of mine cycling through on the screen.
And
it only does it. Oh, go ahead, Alan.
I was going to say right now the way it does that is it requires the phone to act as the controller for that. But what they announced at I/O is that's going to be something that's baked into the Chromecast controls soon. So you'll be able to select show my photos on the screensaver mode, show famous works of art, show famous museums. You'll be able to select different things that will show up there, and your photos are one of those.
I got a question for you, Alan. Would a software update allow Chromecast to support 4K, or will it have to be a Gen 2 Chromecast?
You know, Dan, one of these days we're going to understand your obsession with 4K. I honestly don't know.
I went to Costco again.
My
and
speculation
it's
is that it
epic.
will work just fine with 4K.
Okay.
But it's purely a speculation. I don't actually know if it's got the processing power to handle it. We've got this comment from Florian. I don't have one. What is it good for if you're not going to hotels?
Sorry, Florian, I didn't mean to dominate the conversation with my use case that no one else cares about.
Well, no,
Cadeus
a lot of
has
people care about it, but
yeah, Cadeus has the more classic use case, I think.
the big thing that it's useful for, I mean, I can tell you what I use it for.
Yeah.
I use it to Netflix and to watch YouTube videos. If I want to watch either of those, I will almost invariably use my Chromecast instead of using my phone, my tablet, or my computer.
hmm
It can also be used to play Hulu, HBO Go, just about all of the streaming services except for Amazon.
Oh, that's a drag. It doesn't work for Amazon.
Well, you got to think about it the other direction. Amazon doesn't choose to work with it yet.
Here's what you do. You buy a Fire phone, and then you
Throw it in the
simulcast your
As
screen,
soon as you said that,
and
I
you,
turned
you
off.
take a wire from your headphone into the television, and then you're back to the slideshow where every minute whatever's on the screen updates, and you can watch 5 Shades of Grey.
5
alright,
Shades of Grey instead of 50?
Yeah, because only every so often would the screen update.
Every tenth of a minute.
It probably
you get
wouldn't
it.
work for golf. Anyway,
It would probably work perfectly for golf.
Cadeus, I didn't get to welcome you to the program, but how are you?
I'm good.
Newport Beach, California. Any interesting conversations recently you'd like to discuss?
We'll wait for Pam on that.
Some
Couldn't
things,
possibly let that go by.
Shakespeare is better performed than read, but in this case, it's better read than discussed. Okay, so Google's making it Spotify equivalent free for 3 months. Is this Google Play Music? The unlimited version?
This is the unlimited version, and it's part of their promo for celebrating 1 year of Chromecast. So this is intended for Chromecast customers, I believe.
Interesting.
Why? How is that related?
Well, because one of the things that you can play on your Chromecast is live streaming from Google Play Music.
Who's going to listen to music on your shitty television speakers? I guess if you have like a Bose thing.
If you have a
Well,
great television,
it's kind of, why would you get a Q?
Dolby sound.
I got to tell you, the whole thing, I was trying not to laugh. The whole time we were talking about this Chromecast thing, I was thinking back to that I/O where they debuted the Q, and they did that awful skit where they were having a YouTube casting party, and all their friends were there, and they were all, I love this video and this other. And it was just like, oh my God, I don't know what's worse, the product or the acting. I couldn't figure. It was kind of a balanced. But Alan liked it. So
Well,
there's that.
I mean, I like the Q
Until
for
you
the
got the
same reason I
Chromecast.
like Chromecast.
Is there anything that the Q did that the Chromecast doesn't do as well or better? Is there
Yes.
any? What was that?
The Q had party mode, so that multiple people that were, there could queue up the next music or the next show or the next whatever. You don't have that same sort of thing by default with the Chromecast.
I see what you did there. Queue up.
Yes.
I know.
And the Q has one feature that just blows the Chromecast out of the water.
We're all
It was
ears.
Here with a really cool color around it.
Only the Mac Pro is cooler looking than the Q.
I mean,
No, I
we
actually
got-
love the Q. I
was
actually
cool.
wanted it because of the way it was designed, so I was kind of sad when I didn't get one.
That's the only electronic gadget you do not own, Cadeus, so you will get no sympathy from us. You could probably work out a trade with Alan for some, does anyone use Google Play Music. I know Nate Swanner was a huge fan from our
I'm a
Android
diehard
show,
fan.
and when it came out, he said he loved it, and I think he'd used Spotify and he really liked it better. I have no idea what the usage is. What do you guys think? Kadeus, you're a big fan.
I love Google Play Music. I mean, there are little things that I want them to change, but that's the same thing with every product of Google's. Play Music.
I also use Google Music. I'm I'm a monthly subscriber. I don't know if that's unique or not, or unusual or not, but I uploaded all of the music that I have anywhere into it, and I use when I'm away from my home, I use it regularly, streaming audio all the time, and I love it. I'm really very happy with it. But it doesn't. Interestingly, it doesn't stop me from using Pandora. And I thought it would. I thought it would just, I would never use Pandora again. But I find that Pandora is better at finding genres of music and playing interesting things for me to listen to according to I'll describe it as topic. And Google Music is not so good at that. If I want to find an artist or a song, Google Play Music is fantastic at that. But if I want to find a style of music, I wanted to play Spanish guitar all through a dinner party I was having. And I couldn't do that on Google Music, but it was trivial.
Off the top of your head, do you know one song that has a Spanish guitar in it?
Couldn't name a single one.
Ah, okay. So you got to have a starting point with Google Play Music. That's the thing.
I have a starting point. I like Spanish guitar, but
right. But you don't actually have one song in your Google Music library that's a Spanish guitar.
No, and I love Spanish guitar, and I listen to it probably 50% of the time right now.
Okay, I apologize. Let me interrupt. We had a 10-second break there. I don't know what happened. This has never happened before. The Open Broadcasting thing said it was unable to stream, and it was about 10 seconds. And I think we're back. We're fine. But before you guys all comment, I acknowledge that. I don't know what happened. I'll look into it later and try to figure it out. I don't know if it was my internet connection or whatever, but apologies. So go ahead, Michael. You're talking about Spanish guitar. I think this is your Shakira fetish, right?
Well, with the Spanish guitar scenario, once you listen to Pandora and you have one song that has a Spanish guitar and you open that up in Google Music, if you hit Start Radio, it's going to bring songs that sound remotely like that 99% of the time.
Yeah, and I have done that, and that's how I actually made Google Music work for me that way. So that did work, but I had to know the name of a song or the name of an artist, and since I don't know any of those things, I couldn't use Google Music at all to search for that information.
I'm not surprised at your observations, because with Pandora, it's like, the TV commercial for Meta, all we make are great copiers, right? With Pandora, from the CEO on down, they're obsessed with running a music streaming service, right? That's what they do. Just like Google is obsessed with having the best search engine, and with AdWords.
Except
Google Music is Matt Cutts is pretty obsessed with it, but Google Music is okay, we got to get in this space, and so we need a team. Let's hire a guy, you know what I mean, or a gal, whatever.
What I just described, Dan, is a search scenario. It is absolutely a search scenario, and they have bumbled it completely. It doesn't mean I don't like the service. I'm just saying that Google, being a search company, is not an excuse for them not delivering on this function, because I wanted to search on the topic of Spanish guitar without knowing anything else, and it got me nowhere. And so I'm just saying that them being a superstar in search is not compelling in this case.
And I think Alan had a comment, and I think Charo, was it Charo? It was who's the hot Spanish chick who's this amazing. She was funny. She was like a comedian. She was on all the shows, but she was an amazing guitarist. Just phenomenal. Yeah, classical Spanish guitarist. Just wonderful with a 12-string and the whole deal. And
That's
Easy on,
probably why I fell in love with Spanish guitar.
easy on the eyes, if I may
Yes,
say.
for me on the eyes.
So what you got, Alan?
We have this comment from Florian. Google Play Music is awesome. One of the few problems is that it's not very good with sticking to a genre.
He's right.
Yeah, kind of mirroring Michael's observation. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not the first time. I mean, Google Plus, for example, is not good at discovery, in my opinion. Maybe they've gotten a little better, but if
They don't the search tools they're capable of using, they're capable of delivering, that they have already. They don't integrate their search into all the other products that they offer.
Hang
it's
on
the
a second.
silos
Hang on a
that
second.
Pam has discussed before, the silos.
Hang on a second on that one. Michael, hang on a second. You wanted to search for songs that had Spanish guitars
Holy
in them. you're
shit.
saying.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Dan appears to be under attack.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yep. Dan, go do something about that.
Did it bite him?
I don't know what it was.
It was a bear.
It wasn't a bear, it was a bug.
Oh my god, it's like an ounce of blood. What the fuck?
Oops. Oh, well, we'll bleep that out, Dan. Don't worry.
Good thing the FCC doesn't monitor YouTube.
Right. I'm sorry,
Michael,
Alan. What were you saying?
So you want to search for music that has Spanish guitars.
Yeah. As an
Okay.
example.
As an example, how is it supposed to know what songs have Spanish guitars in them?
I don't know. Pandora does. How do I know how to do it?
Well, that's because it's not because of their search technology. It's because somewhere that song got coded with Spanish guitar.
Maybe he was
Why?
listening to Charo. I'm sorry, I'm dying here. Maybe if he was listening to Charo, it would realize, hey, this is some chick playing Spanish guitar. Maybe he's into that.
Well,
Maybe
okay.
for the last 7 months he's been listening to Spanish guitar. Maybe he likes that. I mean, come on. This is just like Discovery on Google Plus.
It's the
Google
same
knows
thing.
Like
Google
Discovery
knows
on Google Plus.
everything you do. They know every data point, everything you're interested in, all your friends. They know where you've been,
And how
they
are
know
they
where you
supposed to
physically
know
are
that
because
you
you have
have
an Android
listened to
phone,
Spanish
and they
guitar?
don't use it in other departments. It's
No,
almost
no.
like Google. Oh, you can't have that data. That's
I was
proprietary.
sports hockey, man.
They ask me to search. They give me a search box, and I type in Spanish guitar. So I've given them all the information they need. Now, admittedly, perhaps their database doesn't classify every song according to genre like I think it ought to. But I'm making the point that but I don't discover the music I'm interested in using Google Play Music. I have to go to Pandora first, discover the music I'm interested in, identify the name of a song and the name of an artist, then go back to Google Play Music, and type in those two things again in order to find it. And often they have it. Not every time, but often they have it. Then I can create a radio station based on that particular song. But that's not smooth, and it's not nearly as good a user experience as I think it ought to be.
And I will readily agree with you on that point. My point is that you then started blaming it on the fact that these guys who supposedly know search are screwing up search. And I don't think that's the problem. I mean, I think that's what it looks like, but I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that these guys who are doing a lot of work in trying to categorize things haven't finished categorizing their music.
Okay, that's a fair point. So they might find it if they had done the search, if they had done the categorization work.
Right. I think this is a categorization problem, not a search problem. And I very much understand how, from your point of view,
The outcome's the same.
the outcomes is that you've got a problem, and it doesn't matter where the problem is.
Right.
This is what you're trying to do. This is what isn't working. There's a problem here.
Well, and
I get that.
it's not like I'm asking for something that isn't available, like that's technically impossible. because I get it from Pandora and I don't get it from Google. That's what's frustrating to me.
The
They've
question
done,
is,
with the
where's-
exception of search and ads, haven't they basically done the best when they've bought somebody who knew what the hell they were doing?
Wow, we went to beefcake on the show.
Sorry.
I've got to wonder if the camera that everyone else is seeing sees that.
I saw it. I don't know what the camera saw that everyone else sees.
Not sure. Anyway,
Ham, you're not going to say anything?
I didn't see it. I was busy on another window.
Wait.
Did I miss his ass or something?
go back and watch the YouTube.
Go back and watch it.
Okay.
I mean, start up YouTube now. You can probably catch it still.
You got to see it. Dan's half naked on camera.
I've seen him half naked.
Oh. Nice. There's the story for the How Was Your Google Plus week.
Can we talk about Pandora again? Or
My
anything
point
else?
is more that you then
You
started
gotta mute it though.
She's hearing it. She'll catch it now.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the main camera, guys. Don't get our audience excited.
That's what we were trying to figure out here. So, yes, I mean, somebody has the data available. But that's also like saying that if you tried to search for something on Amazon, for example, and you weren't finding it there, but you went to Netflix, did the search there, found it there, and then moved over to Amazon,
You'll watch
that,
it.
why is it that that Netflix had the data and Amazon didn't? The answer is that Netflix did a lot of work in categorizing its movies, and it's continuously doing a lot of work. They've spent a lot of money on their categorization,
Right.
and other services have not necessarily done the same thing.
Fair enough. I mean, that's a completely legitimate point. I hadn't seen it from that perspective. I just chose to bitch about it.
No, and don't get me wrong. I think bitching about it is a perfectly legitimate point as well.
Well, and I think that's my only way to get Google to do what they need to do anyway. They want to
Bitch about it?
Pandora, then they've got to do the things Pandora does for me. Otherwise, I can't stop using Pandora.
Well, and you think bitching about it's actually going to get Google to do something?
No, I completely have given up on that idea.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, you've been on Google Plus for 3 years, right?
Yeah. No, I completely give up. I've given up on the idea that bitching helps at all. Not at all.
It's like there's a big difference between Amazon.
By the way, whatever Dan flashed to you guys was not visible. Sorry.
Yeah, how do I get a blood stain out, Pam?
Oh, sure. Go
Cold.
straight to the woman.
Cold water and hydrogen peroxide. Rinse out as much as you can with cold water first, and then hydrogen peroxide.
Luckily, I have like 15 of these shirts. Now I have, correction, 14.
14, yeah.
Or take it to your local dry cleaner and
And they'll do what Pam suggested.
There's this awesome Asian place that can get anything out. Since I'm picking on women, I might as well upset the Asians. I could say that because Dan, are you
Dan,
okay?
Our
Welcome.
viewers are concerned. Are you okay?
I don't know what it was. I'm wearing my shirt, and there was something like it was stuck on me. I don't know if it was a bug or what it was, but I live in a forest, so I just like plucked it off, and it just started gushing blood out. I mean, like
Is it a tick?
maybe it was a tick. I don't know. Hopefully, I got
You're
it.
going to have Lyme disease now.
Maybe it's a spider I was trying to kill. It just wouldn't die. I tried it here, and then it was here, up on this thing, and I just couldn't get it.
Pam's got a friend that's a black widow.
I was like, I got to bring out the chemicals
Cadeus,
now.
it wasn't aimed at you. This is...
See, we've literally offended. We have not offended Lithuanians yet in this program,
No, not yet.
but it's early in the evening. So what was the question, Alan, about the what? I have
We've lost the topic altogether.
I have two Windows 7
like that's
machines.
the first.
No, I have two Windows 7 machines. If you Google Dan,
Dan, skip that part. Skip that part. We're really not going there right now.
just Google Dan how to stream live on YouTube, and you'll see it's open broadcasting software, and I'm bringing them in on a laptop. They're here, and I'm in the mode here. George Cozy, has the algorithm search reached some sort of limit? I'm asking this. What is it?
I'm asking this because of the complexity of our search queries and our expectations have grown exponentially. I don't think algorithmic search has hit a limit yet, George. I think Google may not be applying it so well in this case yet, yet being the operative word. But I think we're also seeing that Pandora and Netflix are proving that you don't necessarily need algorithms to solve your problems. You just need to throw a lot of people at it, and you need to crowdsource it. I mean, that's what they went and did. That's essentially what Google's doing with Maps, is they're just throwing more and more people at the problem. That said, I think there's some interesting things that they can do when it comes to algorithms and music. There's been a lot of research on various aspects of that. So I think it would be interesting to see algorithms that determine whether a song has been auto-tuned or not. That would be an interesting thing to query on or query against. I think it would be interesting if a algorithm can determine what musical instruments are being used, or who the singers are, or who the groups are, and do that automatically. So that's got some interesting aspects to it. In the same way, and if you think all of this is nonsense, in the same way that we currently have Google Photos algorithms determining where the photo is located. Who's taken this picture, and what is it a picture of? And Google Photos is getting better and better at doing that sort of thing. Yes, Dan, I saw you raised your hand.
No, I was concurring with a point I've since forgotten about because this topic's gone on too long. I don't see it in the wild, like the Windows Phone. I've seen one of my sales reps has a Windows Phone, and a buddy of mine had a Windows Phone, and that's it. And I don't see anybody using Google Play Music. But then the only time, I don't know what they're using. I just see when I begrudgingly log into Facebook to check whatever messages I've gotten, I see like so-and-so's listening to something on Spotify or whatever. And I don't know anyone who uses Google Play Music. Nobody ever talks about it. Nobody ever says, oh my God, this new song on Spotify, or on Google Play Music. First of all, the name's too damn long. Google Play Music.
I just like Google Music.
Is it Google Music or Google Play Music?
I don't know, but I always call it Google Music. That's what I think it's called, or that's
It's
what it
Google
was.
Play
Because it's all done through the Play Store, the same way it's iTunes Music and iTunes apps and iTunes movies and.
They're not good at naming things. I remember that Epic. Now there's a bug on my nose. Maybe this is the one that's been biting me, fucker.
Another moment for the FCC.
I'm a First Amendment guy. But yeah, so
The president
that
is
Epic
not.
Thing where they said that they were talking about how the Republicans are better at naming things, like instead of the inheritance tax, they call it the death tax and stuff. Google's not good at naming things.
Dan will be bug bombing his house before next week's show.
Oh, multiple cans. Yeah. I'll have to turn the. Luckily, I don't have a pilot light. I have an igniter for my heater, so it's not heating in now anyway. Okay, so are we cool? You actually added a topic, Dan. Are you okay? I'm okay. Google. I have no idea what this is about. Google acquires Draw Elements. What's the deal? Does anyone have Alan? I'm hoping.
Yeah, basically this is along the lines of a testing tool for Android. So it basically assists in testing 3D drawings and animations, as I understand it. This is not a huge deal, but it's demonstration that they are working on getting more and better tools into the hands of developers to do better things and help them do things, niftier. That said, they only bought it for like 10 million, so this is chump change for them.
This is not Facebook.
No, Facebook would be paying 10 billion for this.
Okay.
Next story.
Next story. You can showcase content in Hangouts on Air.
Yes. Unless somebody else is about to introduce this. So,
Unlikely.
so what we remember from almost a year ago now.
So my job is to put the stories in, not read them.
Look, Dan. Dan, do you want me to chew gum or walk? Sorry, go ahead, Alan. We were rude just then, but it was funny. And I'm not bleeding anymore, I don't think. So
That could be arranged.
Just because I'm little, you're in New York, you can't beat me up easily.
So, we remember a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, in fact, we were introduced to this the question and answer system for Hangouts on Air. So that we've got an echo, by the way, Dan. So that when you were running a Hangout on Air, you could be running this Q&A thing, and people who were watching could post questions, and other people could vote up those questions, and so forth. And this appeared kind of on a sidebar if you were watching the Hangout on Air through an event when the moon was full, and there were a lot of things to it, but this kind of popped up in a window from a Hangout on Air event. It looks like they've now taken that concept and they're adding other applications. And this is one of their new applications that they've added, is called the Showcase. And what this lets you do is essentially post URLs to the Hangout on Air, and everybody who is watching the Hangout on Air will be able to see this this showcased blurbs almost, the showcased URLs and content. So you could sort of imagine doing this as in a QVC style Hangout almost. So you're showcasing the product, and a link will show up on the side that lets a person buy the product.
Oh, this is the buy thing.
Yes.
It's not so showcasing content. It's they've added a buy option. They've added in-app purchasing or whatever you want to call it.
No. I mean, this is a more flexible tool than that. Because although you can do in-app purchases, basically, what this really does is it'll let you bring up any other content that you want to show. So it's really just, letting people see other stuff that you're talking about on the show. So in this case, one of the things that we could do is if we put all of our comments in one, every time we advance to the next topic, we could change the showcase to point to that topic itself. So those are the sorts of things we can do. So now that I've talked about it a little bit, Cadeus or Pam, any thoughts on this? Is this something you think is interesting? Do either of you even use the Q&A app?
I didn't have any plans on using the Q&A app until this week. I was showing somebody kind of how Hangouts work in the whole 9 yards, and they're wanting to take Hangouts and replace it for their teleconference type things that they're doing now. And so I noticed that the Showcase app was in there yesterday, and I was like, what the heck is this? And so I'm supposed to be playing with it to figure out what all they can do, but we did a few little tests to figure out what it does in the whole 9 yards, and it's something he said he's definitely interested in. And so, yeah, I'm going to be playing a lot with this in the coming weeks.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I mean, I think there are a lot of neat things about the Q&A app and about the Showcase app. My biggest concern is that, they've kind of locked out other developers from this technology.
I just think that they need to whatever they come up with, I think they need to centralize everything into one, or at least to have one app that does that centralizes everything, because you got the questions app and you got to be in this web browser, and that doesn't work on mobile, but then you got the YouTube comments that will work on mobile, but only if you're commenting via. So there's just all these different variations, and so even as the people on this side trying to run the show, they have to go in and keep clicking. Okay, let me see the comments. Let me see the questions app. Okay, let me go back to the comments, and now I got the Showcase over here. And so we need all this in one interface as opposed to 7 different variations. And so
and I think you make an excellent point about, you know, where are people actually watching this from. I mean, we know that a lot of our viewers watch it from YouTube, and that's why we don't use the Q&A app most of the time, is because it's not available from there.
Let me address this briefly. I love
Oh,
Hangouts on Air. That's how we all met, right? Well, it was really Blog Talk Radio and then Wirecast. And now I use open broadcasting software because it's less bloaty. But Cadeas is right, although in their defense, as far as it should be a more full-featured in its basic formulation rather than having to add different apps and extensions and stuff, and then only, you know, Google has access to APIs that Alan doesn't, etc. But the thing is, it doesn't have some of the basic key features, Hangouts on Air don't, that YouTube Live does using Wirecast or OBS or some other streamer, and there are several. The ability to play an intro, like I do with music and graphics, the ability to play an outro, the ability when Alan couldn't be on the show live, but he was something. Oh God, is that me?
The ability to not be interrupted by other Hangouts you're invited to.
Yeah, maybe.
But here's the thing, Dan, that the intro and outro, there are ways that we probably could do that. We've just never explored some of them using the tools that we have available. Now, will it be as good? Possibly not. But, you know, consider the fact that Hangout on Air can do lower thirds, and the solution you're talking about, you know, YouTube Live does not offer tools like that in that way. So I think...
Plus, the tools have gotten better since we started.
Well, some of them have, and I'm not sure some of them haven't.
Not all of them have, but I mean, things are progressing over time, so...
I'll give you a specific example real quick. And that was my driver who's at a karaoke show singing and wanted to know what was the super group that Willie Nelson was in. I told him Highwayman, so that happened. Okay, so, and it's excellent. It's like real country, not this bubblegum pop BS that they're putting out now. So anyway, here's an example of something that I have proposed and was ignored. So it may, if they ignore it, usually that means they're thinking about it or they can't talk or something like that. But I think in a Hangout on Air, I don't think it'd be rocket science to, I could be wrong, but they haven't responded, so I'm just going to put this out there. I think you should be able to do the following. I think you should be able to play as part of your program any video that you have uploaded to your own YouTube channel, because anything, like let's say you make an intro, you know, it's this week in Menifee, California, starring Pam Adger, right? Music she buys legally and can use. And then maybe she went out earlier in the day and she interviewed someone and or took a nice shot of whatever. And then she wants a little ending, like, please subscribe to my, you know, Pam and Menifee channel or whatever. And it'd be super easy if it passes all the tests to be uploaded to your YouTube channel without strikes, then it's gone through their algorithms. You should be able to play that in an HOA. That's a basic thing. What TV show that exists today, post 1960, does not have some sort of introduction and maybe like a lower third, or we can do that, but an outro credits, you know, thanks so much to Mike Ellis and Cadeas Kalut and Alan Furstenberg, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's a basic thing to do a show, and a Hangout on Air is in essence a broadcasting tool. Now, YouTube Live is a dumb pipe, but it's great, and it lets you use your own media, and that's what I do. That's the reason I go through this hassle of using YouTube Live when I would much rather use Hangouts on Air. And the second time when we did Vic, I'll throw this out there, they basically said, we really, really want you to use the Q&A app and do an HOA, not YouTube Live. And so I was like, okay, that's what we got to do to get Vic and Dotra on, we'll do it, you know. But it was the first or second time I'd used it, and I was nervous the whole time because, you know, I wasn't used to it. And we are going to try to get Bez on. That's my fail. I've neglected that. I talked to him earlier, and he said he would do it, but it was right after the transition, and he didn't want to do it then. So we're gonna try to get him on. But anyway, there's some. It's like they're majoring in the minors. Okay, it's great. I can put Pam can put a sombrero on her head and wear a mustache, and I can't. But she can't play a freaking intro to a show that's broadcast live on the internet, which is, in my opinion, a glaring omission. And I think they should major in the majors before majoring in the minors. Off the soapbox, Alan.
Right. So what I was asking you, Dan, was what makes you think that you can't do those things right now?
Well, two things. One, the quality of an HOA, and anybody watching this program, we're in a regular hangout, which is same quality as HOA. You know, the quality of video I'm getting from Alan, and the quality of video I'm getting from Cadeas, and the quality of video I'm getting from Michael, and the quality of video I'm getting from Pam is frankly not the same quality when they see me on the stream. That's one.
But Dan, no, hang on, Dan.
Two is when I do my intro, that looks epic. You know, it's really good. It's straight up 720p. It would be 1080p, except my computer isn't up to snuff. My here's the other one. Here's the other one. I'll play 10 seconds of this one. Here we go. Here's Alan. Here's a segment from Alan when I interviewed him, and I was able to play it during the show. I understand there are some new tools for WordPress users, and in fact, I was just talking to you. Now these guys can't see any of this, but I'm playing it. This is when Alan, I interviewed you pre-show, right? I think it was IO or something. But I can't do any of those things with an HOA. I love HOAs. I'm not trashing anything at all. I'm just saying there is a big difference in what you can do with a modern streaming setup. But Dan, here's the point, and here's what I keep trying to get at. Note in the notes that
any modern show will have opening roll and closing roll, and you've got all. Why there's nothing that's stopping us from doing that. It just hasn't been done.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying in its present form.
No. I'm not saying that Google didn't do it. I'm saying that it hasn't been done. And that's a difference.
So, Alan, you think we have the tools in place now in an HOA to do the opening roll and the closing roll?
Yes.
Okay. So then that's an action.
Wait. You think that we have the tools in place, not that you and Gerwin can create them?
No, I think it's that I and Gerwin and Moritz can create them.
Okay.
You've got the APIs in place to do that, because that would be epic. Because I would love to be able to do this with an HOA. I'd love to have the same, throughput. I'd love to have the same quality. The bottom line is I'm going directly from a C920 camera. Now, if I had a better camera, that's a damn good camera. But if I had a better one, it'd be even better. I'm at 720p. I'm at 4 megabits per second. Although I don't know really if it's 4. But I know if you compare this with Michael looks good, but it's not as clear as this shot. And with an HOA, I can't do this. And
no, I'll agree.
There are limitations that if you want,
on an HOA still.
If you're trying to I mean, like if I wanted to do a news show, and I wanted to, let's say I was based in D.C., about an hour from here, and I wanted to, interview some congressmen or whatever the hell I was doing, and I just wanted to have like an opening, Dan McDermott goes to D.C., and then I wanted to say like, okay, well, I talked to my congressman, Bob Goodlatte, who is the head of the science and whatever committee and the FCC thing, and his claim to fame is he's the co-sponsor of SOPA. I actually like him. I've known him for 25 years, although we disagree on that issue, obviously. But I couldn't play that, right? And I should be able to play it because I should be able to upload it to YouTube. I should be able to play any YouTube video that has been uploaded and processed and gone through the algorithms and no strikes, I should be able to include that in a live stream so that you can have elements, sub-recorded elements. Every show does this. This is not rocket science. And if you're going to create a broadcasting tool, you should create a broadcasting tool. And Google itself creates another tool that does this. I'm doing it now. This is a huge pain in the ass to do YouTube Live instead of HOA. I'd much rather do an HOA, but it doesn't offer the full features that I want.
Dan, what does Google offer that does do that?
YouTube Live.
No!
I'm using it now.
No, you're not.
Well, they have a deal with Wirecast where you can get a free version.
You're using other tools that are doing those things.
But I'm saying that
all YouTube Live does is it takes a stream that comes into it and sends it out.
Look, this doesn't impact me. It doesn't impact Leo Laporte. It doesn't impact Chris Pirillo. This impacts someone who is doesn't have the resources financially that we do or the technical know-how, and they want to do a good show, and they could be in Zimbabwe, and they want to exercise their speech, and they don't have the tools. They don't have 7 computers to do this stuff. They don't have, you know, all the tools that we have. That's the problem. I have a workaround. I'm fine. Leo Laporte has a workaround. He's fine. The problem is that entry-level technical people, people of lower means, they are at a disadvantage. That's why they should fix this, because this is the most incredible tool to be able to broadcast on the #1 video streaming platform in the world. But I just want them to make it a little more full-featured. And we've seen people come and go. I mean, I think CBS This Morning was doing Hangouts on air for a while, or Hangouts and Incorporate, and then they stopped it. You know, and we've seen that over and over again. If they would build out the feature set, maybe buy Wirecast and incorporate it and let it stream directly or something, whatever. But I'm an advocate now, and I have Wirecast. I have the fancy version, the full-blown version. Open broadcasting software is good. It's very simple, but it's only, they just released a Mac version, in fact, by the way, if you have a Mac. But it's just, my system is kind of kludgy, but I've figured it out. But other folks wouldn't be able to do that or do it as easily. They'd have to hire somebody to help them or whatever. I want this for the masses. I want the masses to be able to come up with a little intro and just set up a HOA event and say, I want you to play this intro video from YouTube, from my channel. And when I end broadcast, I want it to immediately play the outro video. You know, please subscribe, or whatever you want to say. And then at 2 points, I want to replay a 1.5 minute interview I did with so and so about something, and I'll be able to intro that, and then, you know, at the end to say, you know, thanks so much to Sally for talking to me, and do a little show. And you can't do those basic things that any video switcher would allow you to do. I adore the HOA team. I know many of them, as most of you do. I'm a big supporter. I've used it many times, hundreds of times.
And what do they say when you tell them all this?
Nothing. I got 0 on that. I can't get into details on this, but which usually means they're thinking about it, but they can't say, or whatever. But I can't go into great detail. But I raised it with the powers that be and got a blank stare. But I think it's common sense, you know. If you have a YouTube video up, it's passed all the tests, right? You haven't gotten a strike, then why can't you stream it live? And why can't they just have an intro video, an outro video that you could attach with a simple UI to a Hangout on air event? Go ahead, Alan. We got some comments. I'm the standalone tracker is not behaving as it normally does, so I'm not sure what's going on, but I still adore Gerwin for his incredibly useful tool. I mean, epic useful. Go ahead, Alan.
Here's something Alan doesn't hear every day. Dan is right. The quality of Dan's video is way better than any of you guys. Yes, we know. The reason why the quality of Dan's video is better than all of us is because the video of all of us is coming from our machines to Google, down to Dan, and then back up again. So it's going through 4 times before it hits live. As opposed to his video, which is only going from his machine to live.
Okay.
So there's a lot less processing going on for his image rather than ours.
Is that an excuse or an explanation?
It's an explanation.
Okay, so it's not an excuse.
No.
And also, in defense of what Alan just said, I am sending a single...
What's there to defend? I just said that you look good.
I don't know. I could use some powder here.
Charlie just walked in and he's cracking up at your comment, Dan. There's nothing to defend.
From Matthew. He agrees about HOAs being limited. Google wants developers to fix that solution, I guess. If they wanted us to fix the solution, to fix that thing, they'd give us some better tools. And they wouldn't have tried to do Q&A. Because what Q&A and whatever it is that we're talking about right now, which I've totally forgotten, demonstrate is that Google wants to push their tools and not developers pushing tools.
I swear to God, the Q&A app is great, but I don't think it's superior to what we do
well,
using these tools. But these tools are complicated for... What's the word for someone who's just not technical? I'm not sure what the word is, but I'm trying to be polite here. But it's not a solution for the everyman or every woman. It's a solution for geeks like
No, you're
Alan.
backwards on this one. The Q&A tool, let me put it to you this way. I love Gerwin's comment tracker. There are, for a lot of reasons. But Gerwin's comment tracker doesn't scale. Imagine, Michael, is that you?
Sorry, I'm trying to turn it off. There, it's off.
Imagine, for example, if this show had 1 million live viewers that were commenting, and let's assume just a fraction of them. Let's say 1% of them are commenting. That's 10,000 people commenting. Even if all of those people only gave 1 comment, can you imagine what Comment Tracker would look like?
But do we know how to compare that and contrast that with how the Q&A app
yes, we
would
do.
perform? Because let's not kid ourselves. That's never happened. There has never been 1 million people watching a HOA with the Q&A app. And if you can find that, I will eat my bloody shirt.
And here's
Not
the
really.
thing, Dan. We do know that the Q&A app scales because it was designed to work for Google and have 10,000 to 20,000 Google employees commenting on things live, commenting and rating things. And that is the difference between Comment Tracker and Q&A. Q&A is meant to be a self-curated thing where the viewers are also curating the questions and the best questions bubble up to the top and get evaluated. Comment Tracker relies on the fact that there are going to be producers, myself, Cadeus, you, who are looking through the questions as they come in and picking out which questions to ask. The best questions don't rise to the top. It relies on a couple of people finding those best questions and bringing them on air. That's the difference between the two apps. Comment Tracker is great, but it doesn't scale. Q&A scales wonderfully, but it's missing a lot of the friendliness that Comment Tracker has.
Yeah, but who wants I want sequential. I want speedy. The whole point is if you get a smart comment from somebody or interesting comment or funny comment, right? Those are the 3 things we like. Or just someone venting or bitching. I especially love comments that disagree with me and are well spoken. That's my favorite. Often they come from Alan verbally though, but I want that. I don't want. I mean, it's more helpful if we're in this discussion right now, and someone says a comment like the one guy said, Dan's video is better, or if he was disagreeing with that or whatever. Matthew put a comment up there. It's much better to get a comment that's in real time and let the human decide if you want to stick it on the show, as opposed to something that got voted up, but it's about the Chromecast we talked about an hour ago.
But, Dan, do you listen to yourself? It's better if a human picks it as opposed to humans picking it. I mean, that's all voting up is that a lot of people look at something and vote it up. That's humans picking it.
Yeah, and the best example I can think of that is Reddit, where it's completely democratic, and the stuff that they come up with is awesome and fantastic, and usually the first place you see it, and all the other media outlets follow it, and then you read it the next day there. So I get that. I'm just saying, I love HOAs. I'm not trashing anybody. Chi, the head of them, has been on our show multiple times, and I consider myself a friend of his. And we have, we've had private conversations, we've public conversations. I like the guy. I'd buy him a Starbucks. But I'm just saying that there are some basic things that are missing from HOAs that I think should be addressed. Should have been addressed a year ago. That you cannot do, that are causing people, like when Barack Obama does an event and they say it's a White House hangout, they're not using an HOA, they're using YouTube Live. When all of the famous people do an HOA, they're not. They're doing YouTube Live, and they're bringing in a hangout. Huffington Post, they use a hangout, and then they capture it like I do.
HuffPost Live.
And then HuffPost Live, and Matthew, who was with Huffington Post for over a year, I think, can address this. They don't use HOAs. They use their own proprietary thing. So
I used HOA for HuffPost. In fact, that's what I was going to weigh in on. When I was doing HOAs for HuffPost, we had celebrities. I interviewed Wilmer Valderramas, and he had people from all over the world commenting in the Q&A. The problem is that the people that were jumping in on the Q&A were his fans of a certain age, and every comment in the Q&A was, "I love you, Wilmer Valderramas, I love you." And they were all plus oneing the "I love you" stuff, and he's going on with Demi Lovato, so they were writing things about that, and none of that was helpful to ask him a question. So all the questions were being buried, and all these comments saying, "I love you, Wilmer Valderramas," we had to sit there, me and Wilmer, scrolling through all these comments in different languages, in English, and it was kind of useless.
But
So
Matt, let me ask you something. If you were getting all of those comments, and essentially the same comments saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you," and the questions were getting buried, wouldn't the questions, if you were using something like Comment Tracker, also be buried?
most likely, yeah. I'm not saying that that wouldn't be the case, but at least with Comment Tracker, you can, at least there's the option to show a question. The Q&A should have at least that superimposed.
Well, that's a feature that I think is missing, and I think that's one of Comment Tracker's absolute best, super awesome features. Of course, I might be a little bit biased since I wrote it. So yeah, I do obviously think that's important. I think, it's clear to me, though, why the Q&A app took the angle that it did. I think it's missing features, and I wish they would have opened it up to app developers so that we could add those features.
Well, what are they waiting for? I mean, what? I don't understand. At this point, we're 3+ years into Google+. Why are they still so protective of it?
I'm not sure it's that they're protective of Google Plus in this case. I think it's that there are some features to this, to the Q&A app and the Showcase app. There are some aspects of it that are just technically difficult to open up to developers.
Also, let me make one point here. I'm
Right.
looking at this comment. I refreshed or I went to the tracking URL thing, or whatever it is. But to defend HOA quality, it's a different game. And I want to elaborate on this just for 10 seconds here. YouTube Live is a single pipe, right? I'm in a Hangout on my laptop here. And then on the computer here, I'm running YouTube Live streaming with a mixer that mixes me, both of them, just them, and the comments, and I can show the full laptop, I can show my different screens, all that stuff. But this is a single pipe going out. It's buffered, there's a slight delay, so it can build up the quality, right? With the Hangout on air, with the Hangout I'm in, there's very little buffering, and when Alan speaks, it's in real time. We can have a real-time conversation. That's very different from YouTube Live, where what I'm saying right now might hit you in 15 seconds or 30 seconds or a minute later, right? So they have that advantage. So it's not a fair fight to say, I should have pointed this out earlier. It's not a fair fight for me to say YouTube Live quality is better than HOA. They should just fix it. It's a different ball game. Also, YouTube Live is a single stream out with, and then they send it out to however, and there's like, what, 15 or 20 you watching now. But with the HOA, it's back and forth, or a Hangout regular, it's back and forth, and it's in real time. So it's difficult to have a real-time conversation when everyone's at 720 or 1080p 30 frames a second. That's a very big challenge with the way Wi-Fi is set up, and it's basically all Comcast's fault because of the monopoly situation. But that's a whole tangent.
Well, but
I'm
Dan,
sorry, Alan, go ahead.
One of the things to remember when in some ways your statement of in some ways comparing HOAs to YouTube Live, there's a misnomer there. It's a false comparison. Because when you're using HOAs, you're using YouTube Live. The technology underneath, all the HOA is doing is sending it to a YouTube Live stream.
Right. So don't you think they're going to combine the two in some way, in a big?
They have been.
More so, I mean, more integrated. So you can open up an HOA and do everything with YouTube Live that you can do. You know what I'm saying? You open up a HOA, you get all the options.
But here's the thing: you can do that now. If you start your HOA through YouTube Live, you have a YouTube Live control panel, and it's the full control panel.
And that's easy to do.
That's my issue. That's my issue. That people who take the time to make a set, get lighting, inch of makeup, good audio.
Notes.
$500 microphone, fancy intro, pick a great panel, which is the absolute more important than any of that other shit I just said. Those folks can figure this stuff out, and that's the quality content. Leo Laporte's a good example. He gets like 300,000 or 400,000 viewers on a Twit episode, their flagship show. That blows away MSNBC shows. I mean, and he's making millions a year, or grossing, right? I don't know how much he nets, but good for him. And he's been very forthcoming on how he does everything with a wiki about all of his equipment, and he was tremendously helpful to me. I adore him. I also adore John C. Dvorak, who helped me when I first started my newspaper, my website for the newspaper. He helped me, and I sent him copies of it, and he would give me feedback. He's an awesome guy, and these guys know what they're doing. The problem is this should be a tool that somebody in Ireland, or right now in the Ukraine, if they wanted to do a show, if they had internet access, and they wanted to interview somebody about it and do an HOA and answer questions, and that doesn't exist now. They would have to hold their phone up or something and play the video. It's such a powerful, it's potentially the most powerful communications tool in the world if they would just add some key features. The ability to play media from your YouTube channel that's already passed all the tests. That's a key thing. And then if they could, and they are upping the video quality as they go. But I know they're inventing stuff, right? So it's not, Rome wasn't built in a day. But the fact that you cannot play a YouTube video to do an intro or content during the show, or a pre-recorded segment you want to do in the middle of a show, because HOA is designed to be a broadcast. It's Hangout on air. And if you can't play any media during an HOA, then that's a glaring omission in the feature set. Alan, you got a comment there?
Yeah, we've got this one from Kirill. What about Skype? Know about new updates? Today's updates? No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know, but Kirill, if you could give us a quick update via comments or whatever, that'd be great.
Yeah, it would be really great, because I went and tried to search for the latest updates, and the only thing I found was something about new emoticons.
Yeah, I noticed that something happened. I know Skype updated, but I don't ever use it. I was even shocked it was still on my phone, but I saw it was updating.
But that's apples and oranges. I mean, you can compare Skype to a private hangout, but you can't really compare Skype to HOA.
People use Skype to broadcast.
not
Okay.
as
No,
a
but you-
broadcasting medium itself. In other words,
But
record.
Dan,
Skype is
but
to
Dan,
Hangouts,
Dan.
but Skype is not to YouTube Live. Go
well,
ahead,
but there's
Alan.
the thing. Skype is comparable to YouTube Live the way you're trying to compare the two.
No, I'm comparing Look, I'm talking about Hangouts on Air. That was the topic, right?
Right, but even with your YouTube Live set up, you could replace us with Skype. We could all come
Sure,
in
and
via
Leo
Skype.
uses Skype, I think.
Right.
And
You're
it's
saying
kind of the
though,
same thing. Skype's like, that's the thing. I didn't want to do a bum rap on the video quality because I know it's a different game. It's real time, right? YouTube Live is a dumb pipe that broadcasts, and it has the opportunity to buffer. It has the opportunity to have anywhere from a 15 to a minute delay to get the quality right before you get it. Just like when you watch a Netflix movie, right? Hangouts and Hangouts on Air are real time. So it's very difficult to achieve the a 1080p 30 frame a second really quality signal like watching Nightline and somebody's on satellite from the Ukraine at a cost of a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, whatever it is. That's very difficult to achieve in real time and get that kind of quality when everybody has varying types of and something's wrong with my system now. Everyone has various quality
Setups.
Wi-Fi's and stuff, Wi-Fi setups. So that's not a fair fight. I get that. I totally get that.
I think what you're
My
saying, Dan,
issue
that
is
the
you
amount
should be able to play
the amount-
media. If Matthew
was gonna
does
say
a
the amount of
show,
time
you should be able to play an
HOA
intro. You should play segments and outro. Matthew and then Alan.
I was sorry. I was just gonna say the amount of time that we've had HOA. I feel like maybe it hasn't gone advanced quick enough in the amount of time that we've had it. We've had it what now? When it came out in December, I think December 2012 maybe, or December 2011. I want to
It
say
was early, yeah.
was the beta. So
And
we've had it
we're
about
fans.
3.
We're both fans. We like it's a great free product that can reach masses if you have good content, But if you have good content, you want to be able to highlight it. It needs to be easy to operate so that non-technical people can have access to this wonderful pipe to reach the masses.
You're touching on with Google Plus and Hangouts in general, the complexity of it all. You're touching on the fact that it should be easy to use. It should be, a 1 click or 2 clicks. But in reality, you have a lot to set up. There's a lot to do, and I've been in the situation where I promoted a Hangout, I've done everything right, and there's been a bug or something's happened. We've all been there, right?
Oh, sure.
And then it becomes what's the word you like to use? Fugazi, or I don't know whatever word.
Kludgy.
Kludgy, yeah, it becomes kludgy. So.
Alan, you got a comment you want to highlight there?
We have this one from George Cozy. Watch me wind up Alan. If they're not so protective about Google Plus, why isn't there a right API to it?
Oh God.
There is a right API to it.
That everyone has. Okay. Does everyone have access to the Google Plus API?
No.
Well, there you go.
Well, the Google Plus API, yes. Does everyone have access to the Pages API through a third party? Yes. Does everyone have access to the Domains API? If you've got a domain, yes.
Okay, quick. Go ahead.
Now, I'm not entirely sure what being protective about Google Plus, and for the record, I do think Google Plus's API policy is an utter mistake, and has been for 3 years. But that's another story. As opposed to, but I don't necessarily think that equates to them being protective about Hangouts. I don't think the two are really comparable. We seem to have somehow attached the fact that there's this product called Hangouts that's a subset of Google Plus, and I think that's a misunderstanding of what both products are.
Well, Hangouts on Air, though, is definitely Google Plus. You can't have a Hangout on Air without Google Plus.
That doesn't, I mean, that's like saying you can't have a Google Play game without Google Plus. Well, true, it's meaningless.
You have to have a page on Google Plus to have a Hangout on Air.
No, you don't.
You do not a Google Plus page. A Hangout Watch page has to exist for a Hangout on Air to exist.
Okay, and in order for you to play a game with Google Plus Games, you need to have a Google Plus account. I'm not sure what you're getting at.
No, you were just saying that they're separate, weren't you?
They are separate.
All right.
They are separate.
You invite people through your Google Plus circles. They're the same way. I mean, I don't know. I'm just.
So I can send an email to a Google Plus circle. I'm not sure what you're getting at here.
I don't necessarily think people. Do you think people associate Hangouts and Hangouts on Air separate from Google Plus, or do you think people are still? It's all. In
It
one
depends
circle?
on how they discovered it, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, how people are associating it is based on how they discovered it.
Right.
I think increasingly people are realizing that they're separate products and are thinking of them that way. I mean, for that matter, is YouTube Google Plus?
Yes.
And what
But
about
people-
Google Voice? Is that
People,
is
but people aren't there yet. They're not. They don't think like that, but it is.
But what about Google Voice? Do you think Google Voice is Hangouts, which is Google Plus?
No. Well, Google Voice is Hangout. I don't. It's confusing.
How is Google Voice Hangouts when they don't actually require you to actually have a Google Voice account?
And actually, you know what? No, hang on a second. That gets us to our next topic.
Thank God.
Well, this is a good topic.
Y'all busted me. I'm sorry. I was just trying to move.
You are the
along.
last one to be saying thank God, considering you repeated the same thing 10 times, taking 5 minutes each time. But no. This brings us great to our next topic, which is about Google Voice and Hangouts. You want to read this one, Cadeas?
Well, apparently Google Voice no longer, or let me say that again. As long as you're using Google Voice to make a call, you don't necessarily have to have a Google Plus account.
Right. That appears to be different. And of course, I can report, as usual, this function has not rolled out to Google Apps accounts.
Are you dying?
Why?
Are we
do
going
they
to have
do
2
this?
deaths on this program tonight, Michael?
Telling you this.
It was the first one.
The
Why do
Google
they do this to me?
Depression is just about to kill me.
By the way, Cadeas, your last post is, oh my God.
Yes, I know. I'm just reading it now. That's what got me distracted.
Yeah. So I've resisted
Television.
discussing it thus far, but
Why do you keep bringing it up, Dad?
just to troll, I'm trolling you.
I need to go read that.
I'm just trolling you.
Okay, so anyway, Google.
I use Google Voice extensively.
By the way, I just want to
And-
throw this one thing real quick, and then Michael.
Oh, God,
While
yeah.
Michael clears his throat, I
With
just
wine.
posted a funny trailer for a movie that looked smart and well written and interesting, and talking about issues that people discuss in a more honest way than often people actually discuss them in person. And that was my point. I just said, hey, this movie is interesting. I hadn't heard about it before. Apparently won a bunch of awards. This looks really good and smart and well written. I'm a big dialogue guy. You know, I'm a big Aaron Sorkin fan, as you guys know. I just threw that out there, and I didn't even realize that this thing had blown up in, like, you know, I don't know, 60, 70 comments by now. Everyone's bitching at each other. It's just hilarious. But it's very entertaining. So anyway, Michael Ellis.
Cadeas was the target, and I was chiming in as a part of the conversation, not to target Cadeas, but Cadeas definitely got targeted.
I don't mind being targeted. I'm targeted day and night. There's nothing different. So.
Michael Ellis, the tall, rich...
just like this. Google loves to target me because I live out of my Google Apps account, and they didn't make this feature available on Google Apps.
That's exactly what I was saying. The Google Voice question. Of course, I won't see this yet because I don't know anything about it because I'm a paying Google Apps customer. So I never see any of the new features that everybody's talking about.
It
until
takes a long time.
sometimes
Let-
months
let me-
later.
Let me ask you this, because honestly, this feature was hard to find. If you go to Google Voice
Yeah,
on the desktop,
yeah. That's the only place I ever use it.
that's the only place you ever use it, okay, and you tell it you want to make a phone call,
That's not quite true. Yeah.
what does it prompt you currently?
I get the old Google Talk button or pop-up window that displays, and then it gives me choices about what to dial with.
Okay,
Yeah, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
that choice, that list of choices of what to dial with, does one of them say Hangouts?
I have to say, I don't know in the last
It
few
does.
days.
It actually does.
Thank you!
So, Michael Ellis, you got me all riled up for nothing again.
Michael, you sound terrible. Are you going to make it to the show?
No, I'm fine.
Can
I've
we go back
stopped
to that
bleeding,
Google,
but you appear to
YouTube
have...
is Google Plus based on the comments that you guys got on those posts?
No, can we finish this topic first?
Maybe
Please?
it's the Ebola virus has invaded our program because I was born in Monrovia, Liberia, which is being hit with that. I think that's what's going on.
Man,
I'm bleeding.
What the heck are you talking about?
You brought up his post, whatever.
If blood starts
Okay,
pouring out of my
so-
orifices, you'll know. You know,
You're the
to
only one
expect the
bleeding,
worst.
Dan. You really shouldn't be talking here.
We don't know that. I just did it on camera. Ellis sounds kind of rough.
If he
All right, so
dies, he dies.
I've totally ignored. I was reading this thing from Kadeas.
Okay, Dan, you gotta
the-
keep bringing that up.
What is it? What do you call it? A re-rant? A re-rant? I'm not sure. A response
what is
rant?
A summary rant.
So the bottom line is that here, and it apparently works. And now the only argument is that I have a Google Plus account connected to this, but that doesn't mean that if I didn't and it was a Google Apps that it would or wouldn't work. So
You're like Kadeas is like Martha Stewart on the Today Show after the indictment, and he's
Dan, what
he's
the heck
like,
are you
What
talking
kind of
about?
analogy is
I
that?
just want to make my salad.
I'm geeking out.
That's actually if you get the reference, I think Michael does. You'll
I
that's
do.
actually humorous. Go ahead, Kadeas. I apologize.
The image of Kadeas.
I just want to make my salad.
It was Alan that was talking.
The whitest black man anyone's ever known, and Martha Stewart, all in the same show. It's like crazy.
I'm surprised we haven't talked about Paula Dean yet.
Oh my God. Okay, go ahead, Kadeas. Tell us about whatever the hell boring topic we're talking about now. And don't leave anything out. Give us
If
the
you
full-
want trolls from YouTube, just post a YouTube video on Google.
You said
Plus.
what? What do you need me to do, Dan?
I've completely forgotten what we were talking about. I wasn't paying any attention.
We were talking about that
Alan was the one
post.
talking and you cut him off
and
4
Hangouts.
times.
They were talking about Google Voice or something, right?
All right, so
Yeah,
I'm
the
gonna let
new
Alan
feature.
take it from here.
Alan went away.
Alan's around. He's probably eating or drinking or something.
Are we
Some-
done with this BS?
Non-alcoholic beverage.
Was the Google Voice feature that came out a big deal?
Are we done with the BS?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
sir.
I want the host to tell me that so he doesn't interrupt me again. Thank you, sir. So this is not a massive deal, but what this does is it shows that again we're creeping closer to voice being integrated with Hangouts.
Exactly. And who cares what direction it is, frankly. The point of the article was all about the speculation has been that Hangouts was going to absorb voice and voice was going away. Who cares that for this interim step, a new feature arrived in voice that mentions the name Hangouts? Big frickin' deal.
Well, in this case, it is a little bit of a big deal because what it now does, I mean, previously, as I remember voice, and I honestly don't think I use this aspect all that much, the only way to do a call from that particular screen was for it to then call you using your landline or your cell phone.
Correct.
What this does is it now lets you, from that same screen, call out directly using your computer.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I mean, I've been waiting for this function. I've wanted this to work forever. And they made it terribly inconvenient for me to make phone calls using Google when they got rid of, I don't know what they got rid of, when they got rid of the ability for, what did they get rid of?
You
Shit.
used to be able to at Gtalk have audio
I don't
only.
think
Is
they
that
got
what
rid
you're
of
talking about?
anything.
Audio
Good.
only?
I used to make phone calls, and now I can't make, and then after that I couldn't make phone calls anymore. I can't remember what they
You're
kept.
talking about Gtalk when you could call someone
Google
on
Talk,
Gtalk?
yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's it, Matthew. Thank
That
you.
had the phone function?
Yes. And then that didn't work anymore. And then, so suddenly now I had to go back to using Skype. Then I found out that the Gmail plugin, or whatever it was called, that would still make phone calls, or that was newly the big thing that would make phone calls.
If you're saying it's confusing, it is.
It's confusing as hell. And for those of us that have a Skype subscription worldwide, like me, I can use Skype nonstop all day long. It's trivially easy, except when I tried to adopt a Google Chromebook, because Skype doesn't work there. So as the devotee that I am, I tried to figure out some frickin' workaround to avoid using Skype and just use Google, and it still doesn't work.
Life shouldn't be that hard, Michael.
Is there a way, Alan or Kadeus? I don't know. You two guys are probably the only ones who would know this. Is there a way to revert back to the old plugin? Because I still have it.
You can on Gmail, right?
Yeah. If I answer a phone call in I'm trying to stop me if I don't know what we're supposed to say, but if I answer a phone call in Gmail. It's real fast, and I get this little tiny pop-up. It's crystal clear. It works. It's reliable. If I answer it in Google Plus or in any other Google property, then it's the bloat window pops up, and it's you know. So, is there a way for Michael to revert back to the traditional Google Talk plugin that was so fast and efficient? Alan, do you know that? That I still use, because I refused on multiple occasions to upgrade. He kept saying, you know, you should upgrade, and I say, hell no, because I heard all these horror stories that turned out to be vindicated.
I don't know.
And I would love it if Kevin Bryan would join our show. Kevin Bryan, you're more than welcome to pop in and chat with us. You should have the invite. Just look in your Hangouts thing, and you should see the thing and click there and just join the video call. You're more than welcome to come in. We loved having you on the first time, and you're always welcome to come back. And then Florian asks, Google Voice is quite a few years old now. Do you think it's ever getting out of the U.S.? Maybe if it gets more integrated, more Hangouts. Voice sounds good, but I've never gotten to try it. That is frustrating. A lot of it is the rules that just looking at like the EU with this completely insane forget me policy, where there are things on the web that they're not going after, and instead they're going to a search engine which is accurately reporting that TMZ said that your president was screwing somebody or whatever it is, right? Not you, Florian. I'm just saying, but like as an example, they're just Google is accurately reporting things that are the most clicked on destinations, and the EU says you can't do that. You have to censor this, because like in England, they have public figures enjoy more rights than in the United States, and it's a whole different philosophy thing. In some ways, I understand, but it's frustrating. I mean, look at Princess Diana. She got killed because paparazzi were chasing her, and because her driver was drunk and ran into a bridge. So there's that. But anyway, a lot of this is legal reasons. It's not that they're picking on anybody. It's that the laws are so crazy over there that we're not used to them. We have to figure it out. It takes a while. So it's not, intentional discrimination. It's just the reality. Okay, what's next?
Did we finish that topic? I've lost track.
The only thing I wanted to quickly say is, and maybe I said it before, but I know a lot of journalists that still refuse to switch to the new Hangouts, that they prefer the old G-Talk and the way it is. They have all their contacts the way they like them.
I'm so not upgrading. No way in hell.
So the whole... Go ahead.
What I end up doing now, because I'm using a Chromebook now, I adopted the whole Google idea, and I'm on a Chromebook, which means I can't use Skype ever, even though I have a Skype.
On your phone, you can.
Sure, but then I'm not using a Chromebook.
Skype? Where would you find yourself in a scenario where you need to use Skype?
I use Skype because I have a worldwide subscription for Skype, and it makes worldwide landlines free, with not free, but with a fixed cost, monthly fee, and that's very valuable to people that want to make a lot of international calls.
But the problem is that Skype has not built a browser version of that. So that's
That's
more of a Skype issue than it is anything else. It's not the Chromebook's fault.
You're correct. You're completely correct in that. That said, the way I get around that is I have a Skype out number that I can use in the U.S. I dial that from Google, and then once I'm in the Skype answers the phone, and then from inside the phone call with Skype, I dial the international number that I want to call. And so I use the Skype out, or I use the Google function. I don't know if it's Google Voice or Google Talk or a plug-in or Gmail or I don't know what the fuck I've got now for phones, but I've got some kind of phone and I think it's connected to Google, and I dial that to get to Skype, and then once I'm on Skype, I can actually connect to the party I want to connect to.
Life shouldn't be this hard for you. That's all.
A quick
Life should
Michael
not-
Ellis wine update. Are we on glass number 5 now or 6? I'm not sure.
The bottle is empty, and I'm afraid if it's long enough, I might have to open another bottle.
All right. He's going to race to church in the morning, though. Go ahead.
The whole YouTube Google Plus thing that keeps coming back because that post that you mentioned wouldn't have the kind of interaction it has. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
get it.
Speaking of another
Yeah, I was
topic.
like,
Yeah. Matthew, you're a great host, even though your shot's awkward. It's kind of sideways.
I did that for you.
Did you?
I didn't plan to come in here. Sorry, I didn't mean to kill your show. Is that what I'm doing?
No. We always love having you here. We adore you.
By we, you mean you? Because the rest of the panel like.
The rest of them can't
Well, we-
stand you, but I actually like
I
you.
know.
So
We all like you, Matthew, but Dan adores you.
Yeah, that's
adore
what I
is
was
too
trying to
strong
hint
for
at.
the rest of the panel. Okay, so next up is something I honestly know nothing about. I'm hoping Alan does because I think he added it. Google to buy Twitch. What are they paying? What's it for?
Why do you think that I added every topic that you?
And Pam, meanwhile, stands by and says, I added these topics, Dan, but she still says...
She lays down the law.
Alan.
I
Just
thought
because
Google
I
already
add
bought
them,
Twitch, by
yeah,
the way.
Pam is not responsible for knowing about them. She cannot.
Yeah, that's right. I only add them. I don't have to read them. You didn't specify that.
Dan, you know nothing about this?
Not part of my contract.
No,
Yeah.
but Matthew, apparently you do, and as a noted Twitch expert, if you could
I am not a
prognosticate on
Why
this,
Why
we
don't
would
you
be
introduce
most
this,
appreciative.
Matthew?
I'm too old to be a noted Twitch expert. I think the average age of Twitch is like, what, 16?
What are you, like 28
You
or
are
something?
more than I do.
I was a while ago.
All right, so
no,
Alan,
I mean, as far as I know, Google bought Twitch, or is buying Twitch for $1 billion.
What is it?
And Twitch is a service that lets anyone stream their live gameplay, I believe, and have a commentary track over their live gameplay. And YouTube does this very well too, I guess, or maybe not as well. But I think Google, supposedly, people were reporting Google was afraid it would lose its audience to Twitch, and that is one of the reasons why they wanted to buy Twitch. This is something I read. I don't know how true that is.
so
Well,
just
one of
to
the-
clarify, Google, which gives me and Craig Ship occasionally deserved, but more often in my case, undeserved copyright violation notices on YouTube, is
That's
buying
actually what I
a
was gonna say.
game broadcasting network.
I
Just
find
to-
it hilarious that Twitch basically was started because of all the copyright violations and all the stuff that people went through when they were on YouTube. And so now this new Twitch network comes out that everybody migrates over there, Twitch goes booming, and then Google buys Twitch. And so it makes me wonder if all the copyright things are going to start applying over there eventually. So I find that hilarious, though. That's literally why Twitch was even a market, is because of all the copyright violations and stuff that you got slapped with.
It's like that killer line from the movie about Jimmy Hoffa, called Hoffa, and somebody says, "Are you going to organize the crooks?" He said, "No, I'm going to organize. Or are you going to organize the cops?" He said, "No, I'm going to organize the crooks." I don't know.
I wish we had a
find
segue
ironic.
sound effect for
Huh?
Dan. Wish you had a segue sound effect, or a random sound. That was just random.
That was
Pull that
totally
quote.
random. Okay, so Alan, can you learn us about this, please, sir?
Were you
I
listening
think
to Matthew and Cadeas who actually.
Alan, I think what he's asking is, why did Google buy? In your opinion, why did Google buy Twitch? I think that's what he's trying to ask you.
Well, that's pretty straightforward. It's because everyone was already posting their gameplay videos to YouTube. It's like the number 3 most popular thing on YouTube these days, behind music videos and some other random thing. Maybe it's number 2. You know, watching people play games is for some reason incredibly popular, so they
Amongst
figured
the demographic, I should say.
It's definitely it's young people, and that's who advertisers want. So yeah, it's a win-win for YouTube.
I remember being that young, and I never was ever that interested in what other people were doing with their stupid spare time.
You never stood around.
Here's a question: did you ever play games yourself?
Well, no, that technology didn't exist.
To gamers, Cadeas isn't it the equivalent
I was going to say we didn't have video games when we were kids.
Hang on a second.
Bicycles.
But Alan, to gamers, isn't this the same as people sitting on the couch watching a football game? Even though they're not playing it, they want to watch the others play it, right?
Well, there's entertainment value too. Besides just the gameplay, there's personalities. I believe. I haven't watched it.
Did Alan finally ask this question?
Michael.
Yeah.
You never stood around a pinball machine watching somebody else play pinball?
Well, I suppose I have. I mean, I guess I know I have.
That's really boring, Michael.
Boy, that's a dating. Talk about a reference that dates the interrogatee or whatever.
We had a pinball machine in our basement that we had rebuilt, so it was more fun.
Anyway,
so do you think that Twitch and YouTube will somehow work together?
Actually, that's a great lead into the question that George asks. So Google is buying Twitch for YouTube. Here's a question. Do you think that YouTube is about to split into a commercial arm and a plebeian arm? I think it's an interesting question. What I'm more interested in seeing, though, is if they take all of the stuff that they're releasing on the commercial side, and they've already started doing that, and making it available to the plebeian side, so that I will be able to charge $1 a viewing for us, for people out there to watch Google Plus Week. That, I think, is the better question, George.
Tip jar.
No, not a tip jar. And that's the point, is that right now we have tip jars, but you can pay for movies on YouTube. You can pay per view for serials on YouTube today, if you're a big enough company. Will they roll this out to the smaller folk? And I think that's a great question that George has asked.
I mean, in this use case, what's a tip jar?
It's not out yet.
Put out a jar to let people send you money.
I would do that if people would send me money. Do you think they would?
Welcome to the
I do
world.
anything.
You'll know when the tip jar is out because everybody will be posting their tip jar link.
Okay.
Okay, and we have this comment from George. Not just young people watch Twitch. I watch it, and nobody can.
George, what games do you like to watch live streamed?
From Sai, I watch Twitch from time to time. It's like watching sports for a geek.
Yeah.
Michael Ellis, you learned a lot today, huh?
I have. This is
And
again, George. Twitch is streaming gameplay. It's just like watching sports. I don't know. I think that's an incredibly apt description.
I needed George to capitalize the word "very."
That's me.
In that sentence.
All right, so we all agree on this one. And
next topic.
Saying that, I miss Craig tonight. I wonder what he's up to.
He's watching Twitch.
Probably watching Twitch. Or some sort of hula hoop gameplay. I know you've all been waiting for this next topic. I know I have. Life with Cortana, Microsoft's predictive search challenger to Google Now and Siri. I have no idea what that sentence means. nor do I know anything about the topic.
Dan, you have a brain. Come on,
But
stop
then,
it.
why were you waiting for this then?
Dan, were you or were you not in a show on Monday night where we talked about this?
His brain was shut
I
off.
was probably peeing or something because
You were the lead speaker on it.
Was
Okay,
I?
wait.
Maybe I don't realize what I'm talking about, and it'll
Video
come
play
back
would
to
be
me.
Nice to play back
No.
that video right now.
You guys,
Come on,
I'm bleeding. I'm
Brian,
bleeding. If you
Brian.
could have some sympathy, go ahead, Pam.
He has ADHD. Leave him alone.
Every
And
2
he
minutes.
But he said Friday on Google Plus Week, we're going to talk about.
I'm like a fish. Every 2 minutes, I forget everything I've ever learned.
Hashtag that. He has ADHD. Leave him alone.
No, I'm bleeding. I've blood. I have an ounce of blood came out of me during the show.
Nobody makes you bleed your own blood, Dan.
I just
Nobody.
finished my period. More than an ounce of blood has left my body in the last.
See, men are wimps about
don't
this
dance
stuff,
with
Pam.
Pam.
See, women bleed every month, right? So they're a little cut is
Are you
like
sure,
nothing.
Dan? You don't know much about that topic.
Well, I mean, if if you're in trouble, they stop bleeding for 9 months. But
Wow.
probably
Now
this
I
is a
don't
more
think
dangerous
dancing-
topic than Kadea, so we better move on. By the way, let me
You were
welcome.
saying something about Microsoft doing something?
Yeah, let's let's get Kevin and Sarik, if
Move
he can
on.
call them his adorable children, down long enough to turn the mic on for 10 seconds. But tell us about life with Cortana, Microsoft's predictive search challenger to Google Now and Siri, Dr. Furstenberg.
So, all of us who use real operating systems have very much gotten used to how Google Now works. It starts learning our habits. It is monitoring our searches. It's able to provide us updates that are relevant to us at times that are relevant to us. So it's a very context-sensitive tool, as opposed to Siri, which is, will give you nice, snappy answers to questions, but that's all it's good for. It doesn't really learn you. It doesn't learn anything about you. It doesn't know anything about you. Cortana is Microsoft's solution to Google Now. And it tries to do some of the same things, but it's still very young and very immature, and it's trying to play things a little cautiously as well. So it's worried that people are going to, they're still, they don't want people to say that they're being that Microsoft is scroogling you, which is what they're doing.
So
they're
basically,
being
it's the
cautious.
Google Play Music of predictive search engines. That was a dig just then. Just kidding, of course. Go ahead, Alan.
No, that was fine. It was actually relevant.
A rare moment for Dan.
Dan, what are you drinking, by the way?
This is someone else asked me that because it's a weird. It's okay. I like lemonade, Kool-Aid lemonade, and I like mango peach, and I mixed the two together to make a gallon of the
This
combined.
is like, why did you ask that?
That's the second time that's been asked this evening. First time on the air, but anyway. So, anyways, to use the popular front row version of the common phrase,
Your segues are the longest, by the way.
that Ellis's Dalai Lama picture kills me every time. So go ahead, Alan. I apologize.
No,
We finished. That was it. He already talked about it.
Thank God. Are we done with that boring ass topic?
So what the story talks about is how Cortana still isn't there yet. It overly asks for more permissions than Google Now does. It tries to be more respectful and at the same time ends up being less useful. Any thoughts on this one, Kevin?
I'm just happy for the competition, really, because it's all of these different methods of delivering information to people by just predicting kind of what they might want. It's always it's in such infancy that I like seeing different approaches, even if they don't work. Like Microsoft will try different things, and a lot of them won't work. Like with their current layout with Windows 8 and that touch format where they have the different cards that come up. It doesn't really work as a format, but it at least sparks ideas. But sometimes they do come up with new ideas. Like Bing did come up with an idea with searching images, and Google straight up stole that idea, just wholesale, because it was so good. It was just a whole page just worth of images. And so, right now it's not worth much compared to Google Now, but I'm hoping they come up with some other aspect of it that'll spark some idea that, Google can steal and actually turn into something useful. That was my take, really.
Real quick on the Windows 8 thing, I don't know if any of you watch Under the Dome, but Under the Dome is now, it's like a commercial for Windows 8. Because they have the tablets opened. Anyway.
What? That show's awesome. Quick editorial. I promise, Alan, 30 seconds or less. The show is awesome. Stephen King is the most wonderful writer.
He is the lead.
It has the worst casting and the worst dialogue and the most awful acting I've ever seen in a popular show.
Otherwise, it's really good.
Other than that, you got to admit, I mean, these are like B-list actors at best, but some of them, I'm sad that they killed off the hot police officer lady. That kind of sucked, but yeah,
that was actually her name.
It'd be nice if you don't do spoilers for people who haven't seen the show.
I humbly apologize.
He's not used to doing entertainment. But anyway, my point was Microsoft spent a decent amount of money for product placement on Under the Dome for Windows 8 tablets.
And is Cortana on those tablets?
That we didn't get there.
Is Cortana on those tablets?
I don't think so. But I brought it up because Kevin mentioned it.
Well, how are they supposed to do those updates that are constantly needed if they're under a dome? That's the real question.
Well, that's what they got Wi-Fi. It was a random Wi-Fi thing. Spoiler alert.
How are they going to do any updates? They're going to make it like 3 days on these Microsoft products, and then an update's needed, and then it can't get through.
So the update should happen under a glass dome, right?
What products can you use, Alan? What products can you use this software on?
Oh, was that a question to me?
Yes.
Gee, I believe it's just Windows Phone.
Okay, so nobody can use it then, because no one has a Windows Phone. That's nice.
I actually know someone who has a Windows Phone. I was really shocked when I saw it, but I've seen one in the wild.
I've seen two. I got you, Kevin. I got you. I've seen two people, and both of them. I'll say this. To be honest, both of them enjoyed it. What were you saying, Kadeus? And then back to Kevin. But both of them liked their Windows Phone.
Alan had another thought, by the way.
You said you seen two people. You said you seen two people with
Windows phones,
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Was it the Tick and the Bear?
No, it was not the Tick and the Bear.
Did they have Blackberries too, by chance?
No, but they had fanny packs. But that's cool. No, but they really enjoyed their Windows phones. One's one of my sales reps. She's awesome.
I find it hard to believe that it's only going to be available on Windows phones. But
yeah, I've seen a Windows Phone. The person who had it wasn't really into phones, but they got recommended.
Apparently.
Yeah, honestly, that's the common denominator of everyone I've seen with a Windows Phone. They don't know about phones.
They know how to operate a car.
It's going to be on the new service, right?
Yeah, the honest thing about the Windows Phone, though, is that I was really, really envious of the camera. It's such an awesome camera that I wish I could just get it on a machine that has software that people use on a regular basis. I mean, don't get me wrong, Microsoft software does work. It just doesn't have all the hot apps that people consider essential on a phone. That's the only problem. In terms of just interacting with other people who have phones, they kind of look at the phone and say, what kind of phone is this? And it makes you feel kind of weird, and that's the reason why you wouldn't want to get it. But if you just take the phone on its own, awesome camera. I wish I could get that camera. And it works fine. It's just...
You're talking about the physical hardware of that particular model? You're talking about the Windows camera app?
Yeah, well, the Nokia Lumia, that 41 megapixel camera, the big huge camera that's on the back of the Nokia one. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. It's so awesome. I just wish I could get that.
Yeah, but the only problem with that is you got to jump through so many hoops to get it off the phone.
Yes.
Take the picture. Yeah, you're looking at either a 5-megapixel picture or turn cartwheels just to get your 40-megapixel picture off.
It
there.
ain't a
So
big
it's-
deal, Cadeas. I mean, a self-addressed, what is it? Self-addressed stamped envelope.
I believe Alan has a comment. From
Alan
George
has a
Cozy.
comment he'd like to highlight.
Yeah, but first let me say, really, those of us in the Google Plus glass house really shouldn't be throwing stones. Okay?
No shit.
I was gonna ask, do
What are
you
you
think
talking about, Alan?
do you think there are more Windows Phones owners or Google Glass users?
I said Google Plus.
That's a painful question
Plus.
there, Mr. Rappaport.
Windows Phones or Glass? Who?
So Google. So why do
No,
you say that we shouldn't throw stones from the Google Plus house? What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Come on. The number of people that are accusing there's nobody in Google Plus, and so all of the 5 of us, the 8 of us that are here, have decided to pick on the Windows Phone people instead. Come on. Anyway, as for comments, from George Cozy, I wouldn't dismiss Cortana. Microsoft has something there. I just hope they don't screw it up. I think they've got something there in the same way that Google has something there. I think Google's got a better vision of where they're going with it, though, at least so far.
And when does
hey.
Microsoft not screw anything up?
When is
It
Google
may not
not screwing
make it-
anything up?
Yeah, but Microsoft, we may not ever see.
You don't think it's gonna be on the Surface?
Everybody's like, whatever happened to that Cortana? So
Hey, you know what, Cadeas? You are so right about that. People make fun of Microsoft all the time because they never see anything useful come out of them. But if you actually look at their labs, they have some of the most incredible lab work in the world when it comes to consumer software and hardware and things like that. But nothing ever makes it out.
Well,
Nothing-
no,
I run into.
here's the thing. They do have some great ideas, and they've got some great approaches, and when they turn it into a consumer product, you get Clippy.
Well, I do agree with you on that, Kevin, because about 2 weeks ago I ran into somebody who I guess he works with Microsoft Sync department at Microsoft, and he was like talking about how good Android Auto was, and he was just like, "Oh no, you haven't seen Microsoft Sync." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "I have seen Microsoft Sync. I used to have a Ford Fusion years ago when it first came out. I bought the car specifically because I liked Microsoft Sync." And he's like, "Oh no, but you haven't seen the real Microsoft Sync. We do so much." And he gave me all this stuff that goes on in the background. I was like, "So why have we never seen this in a car before?" He's like, "Oh," and he made up a whole bunch of reasons why it hadn't made it out. And I'm like, "Really? So you've had all this stuff since 2008, and yet we still haven't seen any of it in the car?" Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't
you know
make sense. They do that all the time.
It's a total management problem. It's a total management problem.
And where's our Surface table? We
Exactly.
still haven't seen that.
They had
Oh my God,
Surface
that's years,
tablets,
right?
No, 10 years before. 10 years it must have been when they had all that technology, and they just never get any of that stuff out. It's a total management problem. The people who are actually designing it, they know what they're doing. They could release that stuff, but they can't get past holding on to I don't know what anymore.
Let
Yeah,
me
we
do
were
a couple
supposed to be able to
comments
go
here.
sit down at Chili's and be able to sit at the Surface table and set our phones down and a ticket and all this stuff. Never happened. I've yet to see that. Yet to see that.
George Cozy, there's a lot of Windows phones out there here in Europe. A lot of people use them. We love Nokia.
Do you still love Nokia? Well, do you still love Microsoft now that they axed how many people from Nokia? There's
Also,
the
he
question.
says, Dan, the correct phrase is, the show is nice, but I've seen better acting in porn. I do enjoy Under the Dome. I really do. It's a great show. I can't wait for the plot
acting
twist.
in porn? Wait, I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, you know, Dan,
Florian-
I think of Under the Dome the same way I think of the first couple of seasons of the original Star Trek. Because honestly, if you evaluate the acting on the original Star Trek, in terms of scale of 1 to 10, Marlon Brando being a 10.
What? Oh,
Negative 10 to 0.
But the ideas on the show are so compelling, and they fire up your imagination so much. You want to watch more and more and more, even though the acting is kind of so-so. Kind of.
Kevin,
Never Google Plus
Kevin,
members.
I can't believe you would make
George
such a
Takei.
dig about such a classic show.
So
Um,
you didn't pause it enough.
Wait, you're in the red
Next
shirt.
week, Dan McDermott, George.
And now we're gonna
Takei,
kill.
and
We're gonna
Shannon.
kill Kevin because he's wearing the red shirt, right? He's the guy who's gonna get killed.
Well, let's not go there because. All right. Jesus.
I'm already dead. I'm wearing that red shirt.
You're a goner,
I've
buddy.
already been phasered to death. I just didn't know it. Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna get phone calls. Dan.
I'm gonna get killed by lens flare in the new movie.
Oh my God! How much longer until Kevin, see, we were just the precursor. Michael's coughing and my apparently like surface wound, were just the beginning.
Was that a Microsoft knock?
I don't know. Alan, you got a comment, and then we can move to the next topic.
Oh, just move to the next topic.
Yeah, just go to sleep, Dan.
Gmail and Google Drive working better together while you're on the go. They've updated the Gmail app to have better integration with Google Drive.
Gmail app, Dan?
Sir?
Which Gmail app?
I think it's on both platforms. Or is it just one?
It's on both now, but this one's the iOS one.
Oh, okay. So this is irrelevant to me. So have you played with this? I do like the Gmail integration, kind of, except when you're trying to copy and paste text into a newspaper, for example, in my case, it's kludgy, and I have to download it and open the PDF in Acrobat Pro or whatever in order to successfully do that. So it's not there yet, but it, on a lot of ways, it's pretty cool. And the unsung hero of this whole thing, which is only semi-related, was when they started caching themselves any photo attachments, because it prevented people from using that to be able to for spammers to see if you indeed opened an email and clicked on something, so that they could verify that your email address was valid, so that they could continue to send you spam. That was really cool to prevent malicious stuff, and we talked about that one time, but that has not gotten the praise that it should have gotten. But Cadeas, tell us what you think of the new Gmail with enhanced desktop-like drive integration.
It's good.
Obviously, James Michener joins us. If you want to elaborate, like a use case, or Alan, do you want to weigh in?
I'm glad they integrated it. You press the button, it brings it in, it takes it out. I mean, it's good. It's not anything to stay on.
But it's something it should do. So that's good that it's doing it now.
Right.
But it's the obvious good idea, which seems ridiculous after 3 years. But anyway.
Okay, so
this integration on is one that has to keep going, and we go through every week. We talk about new little points of integration that are not big deals. They're things that should have been there forever, and they shouldn't have introduced the product if it wasn't integrated with the rest of the shit.
A wine update. What are we on now? Have we opened a new bottle?
No, I'm not opening anymore.
Okay, so I thought this was
Friday night drinking show at Dan McDermott.
apparently. Okay, so we're all excited about Gmail and Google Drive, especially Cadeas.
Pam definitely is.
Absolutely. Okay, next up is Google offers a $1 million prize for anyone who can build a better power inverter. Alan, are you aware of this one? And
is that a Google Plus contest?
Yeah, this is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, and Alan, as you intro this, please explain the difference between a power converter and an inverter.
It's been a lot of years since my Physics 2 class. So
I mean, one is the thing that converts 110 to 12 DC, for example, and the other one's the vice versa. So I'm not sure which is which. And
no, what What the inverter does is it converts between, and I think I get this right, AC power and DC power.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So this is an essential component for every piece of modern electronics out there, because we distribute our power using AC, and we distribute it using AC for some very good reasons. But everything that we use needs DC, and again, they need DC for some very good reasons. Inverters historically have been necessary, but they're wasteful. So kind of the silver bullet is if we could get an inverter that was more efficient, we can use our electricity more efficiently, and the power grid becomes a much more useful commodity.
Right.
Is anybody here who's taken physics more recently? So I got that mostly right? Anyone?
You got it exactly right. I'm an electrical engineer, so...
Oh, then you explain this. Why am I talking?
Because you did a better job than I would have done on it. It's been a long time since I took those courses. But everything you said, I believe, was correct. So,
The way I've always understood a power inverter is that it takes a DC input and then puts out a AC output.
I think it's the other way around, Kevin.
The other way around?
I believe it is, yeah, because the notion is that the AC is what comes into your home, and
DC
every
your
facility.
car.
That's how power is distributed. Sorry, Pam.
Direct current is what your car runs on, right? So it's a direct current. AC
battery in
is
the car.
alternating current, and that's what comes into your house.
Correct.
And it
so Alan
goes in a
described that exactly right. We use AC to distribute power throughout the length and breadth of the continent. And
Okay.
once in your house, in the plugs, it very often, not always, because light bulbs work on AC, but electronic devices that do further processing using the power convert the power from AC to DC.
Yep.
I can't remember the reasons why that's necessary, other than I remember AC is much more efficient and loses a lot less power when it's traveling across long distances.
But isn't that power? But isn't the conversion not done in your walls? It's done with the individual devices, and that's why you have some AC adapters and some.
Yeah,
That's
guys,
the inverter that we're talking.
I'm reading the Wikipedia page, and Wikipedia says that Kevin is right and that Michael and I were wrong. It is DC to AC conversion. And the reason why...
It is DC to AC conversion, yes.
Yes. And the reason why this is significant is, and the reason why a better DC AC power converter is sought after, is because we've got an increasing number of small DC generating systems, such as solar and wind, that are small and local, and in order to efficiently get them on the grid, we need an efficient inverter.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as I understood, that's what the problem was, because we've pretty much figured out how to take AC and convert that to DC pretty well, but going the other way, going from DC to AC, that's it's kind of like a big mess.
I was thinking the problem was the loss that you have because AC to DC into all of these devices loses too much power, which it does. But this is talking about going the other way, where we're generating locally and want to feed that back into the generic grid. Okay, I didn't realize that. I guess I didn't understand it that way.
That is my understanding from a few more minutes of research, and I will admit that I'm not sure.
A few more minutes of exhaustive research.
Wikipedia saves the day again.
Thank God for Wikipedia. What kind of reporters would we be? Oh, wait, we work for the New York Times.
And anyway, one of the neat things about this, though, is Google is saying, hey, we're going to throw some money at anybody who solves some of these problems. And I think that's a pretty good thing for them to do. They've got the money, they've got the resources, and they have a need for better inverters because they have a need for power.
Why does Google care about it?
Why does Google care about power?
You know how much power they use just to cool down their servers? Their server farms have to be on like hydroelectric plants because they use so much that they actually, you know,
They create brownouts in their communities.
yeah. I mean, they basically have their own power plants up in what is it, Portland or somewhere in Oregon and somewhere in Washington, right?
One of the reasons why they've not Google specifically, but a lot of companies have opened data centers in Iceland is because they get natural cooling and they get geothermal power. So it's a double bonus for them.
As far as power and Google goes, isn't that part of some of their deals too with Google Fiber, where they got one of the at least one of the cities to promise that they would provide the power for their servers in order to come into that market. I think that was part of one of their deals. At least it was one of the cities.
I think it was the Kansas City one.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, but easier power means more stuff that they could put up. Yeah, so might as well. It'll help them.
Anything else on this one?
Next.
Marvy, next story. So the other, actually, that was a really good segue there, Kevin, because our next story is about Google Fiber. Apparently, there's some homeowner complaints about recent installations. Hideas, do you have any? You are our Google Fiber correspondent. So, have you heard any of these horror stories, or what seems to be the problem? And I guess one of my questions is: are these horror stories actually any worse than what we were seeing from cable industries? Hideas.
Well, interestingly enough, I have found out that one of my long lost friends actually is a tech for not for Google, but it's the company that Google contracts with to do the fiber installs, and so he has never mentioned that to me, that they were having some issues out of that at all. So, but it doesn't sound like anything different from any other, so to speak, whether it's Comcast, Time Warner Cable, or whoever else is out there. Sounds like they're always tearing up people's yards and doing all the same things.
Yeah, what this is about is this homeowner complained because a contractor came in, right, and they had laid the line and messed stuff up and didn't clean it up well. It's kind of highlighted because it's got the Google Fiber brand. It's kind of a BS story because this is not necessarily indicative of every installer who's doing Google Fiber, because they've been in existence for a couple of years or more, and we haven't covered a story like this before. I think this is akin to the story that was in the news today and yesterday about, I saw it on Drudge Report, Amazon employee crashes drone into the Seattle, what's the thing, the tall spike thing, the Seattle whatever
Space
it is.
Needle?
What is it?
Space Needle.
Okay.
Well, I just finished watching a little video from KMBC Channel 9 News from Kansas City, and what this is actually basically this lady and whoever else wants to complain about this, they're upset because this contracting company has came to lay the fiber and all the lines that's needed to be laid. And by working for a cable company years ago, I understand that, but a lot of people don't understand that there is something called easement rights. These type of companies, telecommunications companies, the right to come in, spray paint, dig up a portion of the yard if it involves laying it there, and that gives them that okay. But this particular lady and the few people complaining, they don't appreciate the spray paint on the grass and the sidewalk and digging up the yard in that one little spot and putting the little signs up. They don't appreciate that. And they don't feel that it's worth it, and this is kind of like just a useless This is just something where people don't understand what they have and what's going on, and this is normal. When I used to take calls for Comcast, I would get that all the time. The tech doesn't belong in my yard. He can't come in my yard. Well, I'm sorry, ma'am. They have easement rights, and our box is in your yard, so we have to do it. So it's just one of those scenarios.
Exactly.
This is a non-story story, basically. Everybody's blaming Google.
The only reason
Can you cancel my Comcast, Kadeus?
Huh?
Never mind. I was making a reference.
No, I kind of disagree with you there, Kadeus. I don't think it's a little concern. Google has a problem when it comes to retail, and I don't know how much they can handle people's direct complaints, and I'm also very worried about how much they can scale. Right now, they're just in a couple of cities, but any company that deals with cable issues, they really have to. Everyone already hates dealing with cable so much that already when Google Fiber goes and messes up someone's lawn, they are going to immediately put them in that category, and then say, I hate this cable company, I hate that cable company, I hate Comcast, I hate Time, now I hate Google. Now the problem.
You understand that that Google is not the people doing this. This is the same contractors that were the line of the copper for Comcast and Time Warner. This is not actually Google.
Doesn't matter. Google's to blame. If it's Google Fiber, they're to blame. They're
laying Google Fiber. Google Fiber is taking ultimate responsibility for this.
Yeah, they've got to.
Saying we're going to do things differently because we can do it right, and nobody could before.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm really worried about how much they can scale it because it's a hard thing to do. You know, I'm happy they're hearing these kind of complaints because it means that it means basically welcome to the big leagues for Google. They really have to get this right and make sure that they exceed expectations to make sure that people love them.
So my question would be then in this scenario, your goal is to bring fiber to this neighborhood. How do you bring fiber to this neighborhood when you have a potential future customer upset because you had to lay the fiber based on how the city told you? You can't tear this sidewalk.
Kadeus.
But that's not what they did here.
Kadeus, let's look at this. There's, indications that they ruptured natural gas lines.
Yeah.
And admittedly, and yes, they dug up people's lawns. Yes, all of these things are stuff that cable contractors did way back in the early days. The issue, though, is shouldn't somebody have learned lessons? And if the city says, hey, you need to put it in this right-of-way, that Google said, well, okay, we need to put it in this right-of-way. In the past, the cable companies just went in and did what they wanted to do. How can we do that a little bit better?
Okay,
but then again, you're
hang on. I can speak to experience on this. I can speak to experience on this.
Responsibility, Alan. You're putting that responsibility, Alan. You're saying it as if Google is the company that is laying these lines, and it's not. It's the same contractor.
It's a subcontractor, but it's still
Google is the one that is contracting with those people.
Hang on. This is the way it works. This is frustrating because I've had this exact same experience. Last summer. For the third time, the Comcast crew showed up because a new resident moved in, and this new resident ordered Comcast cable, and they always slice my line. And so I was waiting. I was literally waiting for them to slice my line. Okay, I'm waiting. Okay, I have no internet now. So I go outside, and it's some guy, and he's got a crew, and they're barely English speaking. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, I'll fix it, and he does whatever and splices it. And this has happened like 3 times to me. So this is not new. And the larger point here is when Miss Utility, you're legally obligated to call an 800 number, and you're legally obligated to say, okay, I'm going to dig. And then they mark the lines. Then why isn't the contractor legally obligated to follow up on that and find where they've said where their lines are, and they just slice through them, and it's just become like a common practice. It's very frustrating. Go ahead, Kevin.
You know, Dan, you picked up on a really interesting point there, and it was the part where you said they didn't really speak English. People don't understand sometimes how much just communicating with people in a clear and direct way could ease a lot of the problems that are there. It's not trying to push other people out of the workforce and out of getting subcontracts, but it's more of recognizing that as someone who's working on someone's lawn, you are really a customer service agent at the same time as a contractor. And you have to manage people's expectations, and you have to be able to do it in a really clear and concise way. And honestly, just telling people what you're doing and explaining and showing, you know, how things might go wrong or how things might go right, that really can ease off a lot of complaints. Go ahead.
Absolutely, because often when your line has been, you know, spliced in half 2 or 3 times, you know, like, okay, it comes up my back porch from this junction box and it goes this path, and you can go out there and tell them, and you know, they come and they regularly slice through it, and then I have to, you know, and it was so common that the guy wasn't at all surprised that he had done it, right? That's what was kind of irritating, and he said, yeah, oh, I'm sorry, you know, so it's very frustrating, and I can understand this land homeowner's complaint, because it's happened to me like 3 times. And I've had to go out there, and I said, listen, you better fix this freaking thing. If you leave and I have to call and do a service call, I'm going to raise holy hell with Comcast. I'm going to call the 800 number and raise holy hell, and tweet and Google Plus and Facebook, you know. And he's like, oh, no, you know, we'll fix it. But like after like 2 or 3 times, you get kind of aggravated by it. But this is a failure of the Miss Utility system. You're supposed to call Miss Utility, and they're supposed to mark everything, and the other utilities are supposed to obey it, and every company is supposed to know where their stuff is, and part of that is that they do in fact mark the lines. And if this woman has a problem with that aspect of it, then that's her problem. I mean, that's the way it works. How else would you know? You know, you want this beautiful manicured lawn with the gas line under it, electric line under it, you know, whatever, and at the same time you're going to bitch when you know, someone has to mark it to get it. I mean, these slightly trained crews don't walk around with blueprints for every property in the Bay Area. It just doesn't happen. Go ahead, Kevin, and then Alan, and then we'll move.
Yeah, all I was going to say was that sometimes Google needs to learn from Apple and their Apple stores in terms of how to deal with customer you know, expectations and dealing with customers, even though sometimes they get it wrong with some of the products they sell, like with ebooks.
I'm not sure that's a great analogy, but I've heard worse. Let's move on to the next story.
Okay, just a couple quick comments here. Vince says it's the on this DC versus AC thing. Kevin is right. The inverter takes DC and puts out AC. Cybernaut says shakes fist at Tesla for his lack of vision. That's epic comment. A rectifier converts to DC inverter. Oh my God, there's more now. Google makes use of Bloom boxes from Cybernaut. Dan, I have cables 60 down and 10 up. We're very close. I have like 50 down and 10 up. So I'm very jealous of the Netherlands. And now I'm getting fiber put in. Everybody does it for free. Wow, that's great. Go Europe. They bring that right into the house so I can choose if I want cable or fiber. Tell Craig that. I will do that. Dan, we have 15 providers we can access through that fiber. That's neat that they're democratizing it. It sounds like a municipal thing, like the local government is doing it or somebody and opening it up. And then Margie says, I want to see more Rappa. He's hot. Cybernaut, did you guys see this? And it's a Wired article, how hackers hid a money mining botnet in Amazon's cloud. We have an Amazon cloud story coming up, which will be, as usual, a ratings bonanza. Next up is a judge takes issue with Apple's $450 million ebooks settlement offer. So this is interesting because Apple was the last holdout, right? And the other book publishers settled because they were, in my opinion, right? This is an opinion, so I won't get sued. In my opinion, Apple clearly, with others, organized a thing where they would switch from what's called the the reseller model to the agency model or whatever, to basically make people pay more for books, Kindle books, because they were threatened by Amazon. So, Alan, what do you think about this? I'm not at all surprised by this posture from this judge. What do you think?
I'm still trying to figure this one out, but it sounds like the major complaint is that under the terms of the settlement, assuming that it gets appealed, that Apple tends to weasel out of a chunk of the money. It's not clear to me why that is actually troubling, because if it's appealed and it's successfully appealed, why wouldn't they not pay as much? I'm missing something here, clearly.
It seems to me like
Actually,
a low-cost settlement.
This is a settlement agreement, so Apple is saying we'd like to end the case. I don't see why there's even a question of appeal after this. Something's not making sense here. Does anybody have any thoughts on this, or can we move on? I think that says volumes.
Okay, there's a veritable chorus exploding. This next story here is from the New York Times, and I think, Alan, you added this at the last minute. This is about Amazon.
At last minute, I added it this afternoon.
Well, that's,
Considering when most of us read these stories, as in 30 seconds before you introduce them, or 30 seconds after, that's not the last minute at all.
More likely the latter. Since when did minute become an objective term? It's a subjective term. So this New York Times article about Amazon, which has historically been a very, very high grossing but low netting operation, and for anybody who's operated a business, you know that grossing is much easier than netting. He's trying to be competitive, and I think the quote that I remember was that if they raise their prices, it would be like a disloyal to their consumer base. So this is the one company I can think of that literally Bezos could give a damn about profit, but he still has shareholders. They still buy the stock, and it's really interesting because in most cases companies are bragging about their profits, right? And in this case, he could give a damn. And then he just recently bought the Washington Post last year or the year before, whatever it was. So I just find this a fascinating thing. So what was your take when you read the article, Alan?
So basically what the article was talking about in the first place is that in their latest earnings call, they announced, I believe it was record profits, but that they are losing more this year than they did last year. And as part of talking about that, he basically said, yeah, that's going to continue for a while. We're still playing the long game about making money. And investors are saying, well, that's really nice, but it seems like we've been playing this long game for a really long time now. When do we actually start seeing profits?
I think it's over 10 years.
What was that?
I think it's over 10 years since they started, right? And there were stories I remember in like the mid-90s about how Amazon wasn't generating profit. They were grossing but not netting. This is not new. I mean, Bezos has a long history of this. He's trying to build up a base,
Well,
And-
but here's the thing. Yeah, it's great to build up a base, but at what point do you actually start using that to make money? And, you know, in this case, at one point you could say, well, you know, he was looking to take over retail. And yet now their retail margins are getting smaller and smaller. So even if they did take over retail, they're not going to be getting much out of it. So the argument goes.
And some of the things like
so what do you think
Go
is
ahead.
wrong with the business model?
I'm not sure there's anything wrong with the business model.
except
I
it
think
doesn't generate a
they
profit.
haven't made money in 5 years.
Well, but part of the reason why they haven't made money in 5 years is that they've been sinking a lot of their income into essentially research and development for new products. And I mean, at best, what you could say is that's actually a good idea because it's keeping them alive. If they weren't doing that, then as soon as the retail market was racing to the bottom, which they led, then they would have been in a heap more trouble than they're in now. As it was, they spent that money on developing the Kindle lines, the Kindle Fire lines, and that's been what's keeping them alive at all for the past few years. If they hadn't done that, who knows where they would be.
Well, you know, really where they would be is still investing in long-term technology. Honestly, this story tells me two interesting things about Amazon. One is that if you listen to investors, you might just ruin the company. I mean, essentially what Amazon's trying to say is that we're going to spend the next 20 or 30 years investing in technology and software and web services and all the rest of it. And essentially we're going to take over the world. By the time they start making...
It's not their money. It's not Jeff Bezos' money. Jeff Bezos made a fortune, a huge fortune, with the going public of Amazon, and now he's hugely rich and will be forever. Never mind that he's never turned a profit. What happens to all the people that put money in that should expect a reasonable return on their investment? They're not going to wait 20 and 30 years for their return.
Bottom line, Michael, is Jeff Bezos a spendthrift or is he a visionary?
He is a visionary, but you still have to tie that into practical business deliverables, which is profit.
But do you in Amazon's case? I mean, hasn't he been really clear from the very beginning that they're not going to make any money for a really long time? I mean, didn't everyone know that when they were investing in the company to begin with?
That's right, and then the people that invested are total idiots because now he's delivering exactly what he promised.
Or they're just long-term investors.
Yeah, it's just really, really long term. And if you don't like that, honestly, you shouldn't have invested in Amazon.
20 to 30 years before you turn even the first year of profit? That's not even a feasibility study.
You should move your money elsewhere.
Well, but here's the thing.
Honestly, if you're investing
that 20 or 30
move it elsewhere.
Here's my concern, though. That 20 or 30 years till you start making profit rests on a couple of assumptions. And one of those assumptions essentially boils down to we're going to be a monopoly in the market. And that's a pretty risky situation to maneuver yourself towards.
And
especially in Europe.
I mean, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that's the business strategy.
I think you're right. I think that is the business strategy, and honestly, I don't think there's a problem there. I think it's just one issue. I think it's just one situation where you just have to let the free market work. And if people don't like that really, really, really long-term strategy, they should just pull their money out, and then Amazon will have to change it or die.
But here's the problem, Kevin. Here's the problem. I'm not talking about investors at this point, because I tend to agree investors and market analysts are idiots on the whole. I'm talking about the corporate decision that their corporate game plan is essentially to spend the company's profits in subsidizing what they sell so they can undercut their competitors, so they can drive their competitors out of business, so in 30 years they can raise the prices again. That seems like an incredibly risky business proposition.
It's a risky business, but also it's something. If it ends up happening, it's just the regulators are going to have to deal with and shut them down, which they won't do.
But here's the thing:
We're talking about.
if their prospect is, look, in 30 years' time, we're finally going to be able to raise price. We're going to have driven everybody else out of business, and we're
Trust.
finally going to be able to raise prices. Somebody will come along and undercut them. That's the problem here.
I think
Well,
that's a
they'll-
simplistic.
Well,
I think that's
the
a
problem is that
simplistic view
They'll get undercut
of
in one or
Bezos'
two
strategy.
areas, but I don't know if they can get undercut in all the areas that they cover. I mean, Amazon now has Amazon Web Services, which
Which they're
underscores.
being undercut in by Google, who's subsidizing it.
Yeah, I mean, but they have shoes, they have computer stuff, they sell everything. I don't know. I have no good answers anymore. I don't know.
No, you heard here first from Kevin Bryan. They have shoes. Amazon has shoes.
No, you know what? I brought up shoes because in an interview that Bezos had,
They
he was
own
asked
Zappos.
he was asked what one of the most surprising things at Amazon that sold and made a lot of and in big quantities they didn't expect, and without hesitation he said shoes. People bought tons of shoes through Amazon, and he was totally surprised by that. So that's why I brought up shoes.
Interesting that eBay patent, where there's some sort of balloon that measures your shoe size or whatever for them. So maybe they'll have new competition. Okay, so next up, and we got to move because I am literally like dying here. I'm bleeding to death and I'm exhausted. Next is, and I'm hoping to God Alan can address this. I can do a very brief intro. Second Watch simplifies a multitude of Amazon Web Service options. My only observation here is that my attempt to use Amazon Web Services was fraught with like confusion and like, oh my God, I felt dumb, and I saw a video. I talked about this before, where they were showing how easy it is to host a WordPress blog on Amazon Web Services, and it was the most kludgy experience I've ever, attempted to watch. It was like a nightmare. So, what's the deal here? Is this gonna make it appeal more to the masses, or what? I mean, Alan or Cadeas or
that's
Kevin or
clearly what
whoever.
It's clearly what it's trying to do. It's trying to say, look, Amazon's got all of these building block components, but most people don't care about the building blocks. They care about the final product. So there's this other company that's going to say, okay, we're going to resell you these bundled components, and we'll take a cut of it while we're at it. That's it. Next story, unless Kevin wants to say something quickly.
Nope.
Yeah, this
Next
is
story.
what I call a ratings bonanza topic. Okay, next up is Major League Baseball takes a swing at the FCC's Fastlane proposal. This is really good. This is an article from The Verge, which we mentioned earlier. Let me highlight it here. The key thing is what's going on is the FCC invited until the end of I forget when. What was it, like July, whatever? They invited folks to weigh in on the concept of net neutrality, where everything will be. The basic thing is that everything should be treated equally, so that if you are a giant like Netflix, or if you are a brand new startup, Furstenberg Streaming, then you would be treated the same, so that you wouldn't have some sort of insurmountable barrier to entry that would stifle competition, as cable companies have done historically. So Major League Baseball, which streams a ton, put this out and sent this to the FCC. Fast lanes would serve only one purpose: for broadband ISPs to receive an economic windfall. The league wrote in a letter to the FCC last week, American consumers would be worse off as the cost of fast lanes, referencing Netflix paying Comcast to be able to actually deliver the product that they're already paying to send and that consumers are already paying to receive. But now Netflix has to pay Comcast a bribe to get it through in a reasonable time. They wrote to the
Let's
FCC.
be clear what the concern here is. Major League Baseball is concerned that they're going to have to start paying Comcast instead of the other way around.
And every other company should be concerned about the same thing. That's the issue here. Let me continue with the paragraph, and then you can weigh in, Alan. American consumers would be worse off as the cost of fast lanes are passed along to them in new fees or charges where there were none, or higher fees or charges where they existed. It went on to say that the changes would make it more difficult for startup entrepreneurs and innovators that want to build things, and that's the biggest threat. So, Alan, why don't you begin, then we'll do a quick round robin here and then move on.
Well, I mean, I think I basically said what I was to say, is that Major League Baseball is concerned that the cable companies are going to start charging them to carry their programming instead of the other way around, which is that Major League Baseball used to get fees from Comcast.
And still does.
And still does, but obviously Comcast wants to reverse it, and net neutrality is part of the way that they can hope to reverse it.
But that notion could spell the end of the entire infrastructure of professional sports in the United States, right? Because that spills over from Major League Baseball to the NFL for football games. I assume that the economics are similar or the same.
Sure, and then consider that it could spill over to movie studios, because in order for a movie studio to do something pay-per-view, they would have to pay to get their movie in. It's a totally backwards, nonsensical approach, which is why everyone is saying how stupid it is.
Not everyone.
Well, everyone except for the cable providers who seek to profit from it.
Right, and they seem to be the ones who are getting traction in Congress, as far as I can see.
That's not entirely clear. There's enough people who are paying counter fees to be heard. I mean, Google is fighting them, and Google's got has a decent bankroll on K Street.
Well, that's good, thankfully. Because as an individual, you've got no. I signed petitions and wrote letters.
Right, and I have to
recognize that means nothing in the world today.
One of the good things, though, is this is Major League Baseball. I mean, so that Congress understands the sports industry, even if they don't understand many other things. Okay, they understand it at least as well as they understand other things. So that when Major League Baseball comes out and says this is bad, it will attract some people to say, well, wait a minute, why does Major League Baseball think they need to have an opinion on this at all? And maybe that will attract some of their attention.
Right.
In all likelihood, let's be honest here, 0.01 baseball fans will even be in any way cognizant of this position that they've taken, unless one of their commentators mentions it on the air. What it does is make the FCC hopefully, realize that this is an issue. And I'm surprised if you look at SOPA and PIPA or PIPA, whatever it is, versus this issue is vastly more important and actually affects consumers' pocketbooks much more so than SOPA and PIPA did. But it seems to be such a complicated topic. Thinking back to to draw a comparison like Whitewater during the Clinton administration, it's tough to explain it. Or the Federal Reserve. I mean, it's such a complicated topic for Joe Consumer, Joe Sixpack, that I think I'm distressed that they may be able to sneak stuff through, and this fast lane that Comcast had to bribe Netflix had to bribe Comcast for is such an outrage. I can't believe that happened in modern America, and it did, and it's just awful. And people, your average consumer doesn't understand the stats, the facts, and they don't care. You know, back to the game. You know, it's Sunday. You know, whatever. So
But Dan,
it's frustrating.
It's really no different than any other time in all of the history of democracies. That's why representative republics were created, invented as a result of democracies, because individual citizens never had the ability to devote their time and their lives to what was important in their societies, and so they elected representatives to spend the time to dig into all of the details that the average citizen couldn't do. That's exactly why we have representative republics.
And that's exactly what my congressman does.
Represent me properly.
And then we've either evolved into, or just been a continuation of a situation where the vote in Congress goes to the highest bidder, and that's the problem. So that's why it's important we're in an age now where the public has the abilities, like we talked about HOAs and stuff, and Reddit. You know, here we're getting ready to talk about next. The problem is that the people who finance the politicians are the ones who have a vested interest in getting their point of view to become law. And in some cases, especially on the state level, the lobbyists actually write the law. The lobbyists will come up with, you know, verbiage for legislation, and then the people that they donate money to will pass it, and it'll become law. So this experiment in democracy is my favorite, either the best in the world or the least bad in the world, however you want to phrase it. But absolutely, our state legislatures and our Congress are very receptive to heavy donors, and that's the problem here, because I can't think of a heavier donor than Comcast. Any other thoughts on this real quick, and then we'll move? Okay, let's move. Next up is Reddit Live is official, and it lets anyone create their own breaking. Like if you were in whatever country and something's going on, you can create your own breaking news live blog.
Twitter for Reddit. Anybody have any further comments? Next subject.
I have no idea what any of that means.
But we encourage our viewers to click on the link. Okay, the FCC bid to boost broadband competition faces an attack over constitutionality. I actually had not seen this one. What's this about? I guess this is just the standard ploy that, you know, battling the FCC from probably some congressional member who gets a lot of money from.
What I think this is, and I'm trying to click on it now to see if it is the story that I thought I read earlier, is that several states have passed resolutions or have passed laws that forbid municipalities to create municipal cable or fiber systems.
It's about 30 states, I think.
And a number of local cable companies are saying, wait a minute, these states don't have that jurisdiction. The FCC has that jurisdiction. Yeah, that's what this is about.
Yeah, Congress is getting ready to, or there's a battle there.
So basically, the National Conference of State Legislatures has said, look, FCC, you try to do this, and we're going to smack you down with states' rights.
The FCC, what they want to do is they want to issue a regulation or proclamation, whatever, that would prevent any state from enforcing a ban on municipal broadband. And I am totally for this. In general, I think that municipalities should allow private enterprise to operate private business and not compete with them whenever practical. But in the case of a utility where it, like trash removal or, you know, I mean, you can offer that service. And in Front Royal, for example, we have the cheapest electricity in Virginia and one of the cheapest in the country. and they have the cheapest water, one of the cheapest in the country and the cheapest in Virginia. So, yeah, so I see, in general, you see the concept, but the practicality is that, I mean, how many, 25% of the country has one internet provider, period. 50% has two, and that could be a broad, like a real one, like a cable company or something. And the second option, or Google Fiber, the second option would be DSL, which is, just sucks compared to cable. So half the country is cut off because it's not practical for multiple companies to come into a locality and lay fiber or copper and try to get the business. And Google Fiber, as much as we praise it, is having a terrible time at adoption, especially in lower income neighborhoods, and we've gone ad nauseum about that. So that's where we are. There is, if a locality wanted to contract with a company or do it themselves with their own utility providers, they should be able to do that. I think. I mean, they're the representatives of the locality. Anybody who wants to weigh in on this?
I do. Years ago, I served on a task force for my city at the time, and the task force was the mayor's task force on technology, and the subject of our effort was to investigate whether we should do anything with municipal broadband. That I'm not sure that we were smart enough to call it that at the time, but that's what we were talking about, making internet available to everyone in the city.
Probably over electricity?
We looked at various technologies that were available at the time. This was in the mid-90s. So, not all the technologies that are available today were available then. But we had extensive discussion about it and made a recommendation to the mayor, which ended up going nowhere. And the city has, I'll make the argument that the city has continued to struggle with its existence as a community because it doesn't do the things that it needs to do like that, to invest in infrastructure and draw people with interesting and innovative ideas to live in the community. The municipal communities need this capability, and the states do not have the right to take it away from municipalities.
They do, but the FCC may be the thing that takes that right away, and that's one advantage of a divided Congress. They won't be able to actually do anything to prevent it.
I love divided Congress.
Yeah, they do no evil, right? Let me ask Kevin real quick, and then we'll move. Kevin, a municipality is logically the choice in most areas to deliver water and electricity, trash pickup. Municipalities exist to provide services. That's the only reason you would have a city in a populated area, is because they got together and they said, we really want trash pickup, we want to build a water plant, we want an electrical plant, that sort of thing. Why is internet any different from those things which are traditionally viewed as, you have it's a public utility, it's something you need to function. You need electricity to operate your light bulbs, you need water, you need a toilet, water to come in the toilet, you need police or sheriff's department. Why is internet any different from that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know why internet is different from that, because to me, internet, a connection to good, fast internet is really what you need in the future to really make your municipality stand out from other municipalities. I don't know why. I am so confused by why it's different. I mean, I understand that there are laws there that stop competition, but it always gets me so confused.
Okay. Let me. Don't ask me why I'm doing this, but let me paint the other side of the issue. Okay, and I hate painting this side. But there have been a lot of cases where municipal deployments, where municipalities have put in fiber or have put in high-speed internet, and it's not just that they lost money doing so, they lost a lot of money doing so. And they ended up with a distribution system that was expensive to put in, never made money, and is now completely obsolete.
But Alan, don't the representatives of the local people have a right to succeed or fail? And isn't that exactly how Google was able to buy the Orem, Utah thing?
Well, yes, that's how Google was able to buy the Orem, Utah thing, is because there's been a failed municipal system there for years.
And I think in that case it was a contract. It may have been a contract. I'm not sure how that works. So we don't want to.
Well, in most of these cases, it's contracted out. I mean, it's not that the municipality, goes and hires people onto their payroll to do these things. They contract it out still, and they manage it. But the problem is, in quite a number of these cases, the municipality doesn't have the knowledge and experience to even manage it correctly. And, you say, isn't it the right of the municipality to succeed or fail? Well, the problem is, what happens when the municipality fails? The state ends up stepping in to support the municipality.
All that said, let's not pretend that fear, that legitimate fear that you point out, is the reason that 30 states have adopted these laws. The reason is that the lobbyists for Verizon and Comcast and others have come in and donated money to the politicians,
Correct.
in my opinion, bribed them, and they passed these laws to prevent competition. It's not because of a legitimate fear. It's absolutely...
absolutely.
Take this cash and vote my way. That's exactly why this is not the case. Not that your point is invalid at all. It isn't. Your point is valid.
There's been enough of these cases where they can present that as at least a reasonably credible argument.
30 states. 30.
But there must also be examples where municipalities put in these services. I know that's where you're going. And it was very successful. It worked quite well, and the municipality did a good job implementing it.
Bristol, Virginia.
Well, we've discussed this one. Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Right.
We've talked about them in the past, and in fact, what it sounds like is going to happen is that sometime very soon, the Chattanooga municipality is going to the FCC to request that they override Tennessee's state law that forbids them from expanding their service area. So it looks like that's going to be the test case of this.
Good for them.
Good. That's good.
Next topic.
And then we'll go to How Was Your Week? New Skype uses Android contacts list, and I hadn't seen this one. Alan, I think this is late breaking news found only on Google Plus.
In fact, this was so late breaking. This was actually a comment from somebody earlier in the show, way earlier in the show. Remember when somebody said, "What do we think about the Twitter news?"
Yeah.
Or sorry, about the Skype news. Well, Captain Hero gave us this URL. So I looked at it quickly, and it's an Android story, basically. Skype is going to have access. The latest version of Skype is asking for access to your Android contacts. So you only need to manage phone numbers in one place. We'll be talking about it more Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, after some of us have actually had time to read the story. You believe that? I've got a bridge to sell you. We'll be talking about it on our Android Week Monday.
I tell you
Are
what,
you phoning this? Go ahead, Pam.
I will read the story, and I will talk about it.
I have a question
on Monday.
And I don't know if you can answer the question yet, but you're going to talk about that. Do you know when in the story lineup you're going to talk about that? Like at the very beginning, or because
it's only like an hour show.
How do I know that, Dan? This is supposed to
is. I mean, you can look back at my YouTube channel.
Yeah. Alan cuts that shit off after an hour. That's it. Yeah.
Alan's merciless.
Oh, I'm loving that story. Okay, then maybe I'll tune in on Monday.
When do you want it? Do you want it up early or later?
Pam, you got that clip just then, right?
When do you want it?
That's definitely going in the blooper reel.
Oh yeah.
good.
Along with one of the creative things that I have said or Dan has said during the show. I could have fit them together. I'm going to start looking now.
What was your question, Michael, which we all forget now because it was funny? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would like to have it predictably at a certain time so I can make it appointment television for me.
It'll be our first story. How's that?
That's beautiful. I'll put it on my calendar. 9 o'clock Eastern time, Monday.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
9
so
o'clock.
it's only an hour show, but we don't always start on time.
Actually, I've been really good at that lately. I've been making an effort, but tonight we actually had late joiners. I was
me,
like
though.
ready to go, and I'm exhausted. I'm completely exhausted. Pam Adger, I'm sorry, Michael.
Pam and I were here on time.
Okay, so Pam Adger in Menifee, California. How was your Google Plus week, young lady?
It was.
And your video,
effing-
by the way, is amazing. And please proceed.
What video?
Your video feed's really good. It's excellent.
Oh, well.
And you don't even
thanks.
have the HD thing on the bottom corner.
Yes, that's because I turn it down so that I don't get an error message when I try to open up the document to read all the stories. Anyway,
TMI.
yeah. It was effing hot this week. The weather has turned for the worst, and it was hot. And today it's also humid, and it's swamp ass day in Menifee. Other than that, had Crown Prep. Google Plus was. I've been avoiding the Israel-Palestine issue. Ebola looks like Ebola's just entered its fourth country. There's an Ebola outbreak. I'm sorry, in Africa, and
Did you
looks like
see that one of the
Nigeria.
leads? Did you see that one of the lead scientists appears to have
Yep.
contracted it?
Yep.
Oh my God.
If any of you don't want to sleep tonight, reading about what Ebola does to you is definitely something you can do if you want to stay up. So that was my my Google Plus week.
Thanks for that very cheery note.
How about you, Michael?
Wow. I've had a very busy Google Plus week, interestingly enough, and it culminated in the last, like yesterday and today. I've just been posting and responding to comments and on and on and on. It's been very busy online. I have to say that it made me think about how. Sorry, the phone does the chiming now. I installed some app that does Westminster chimes on the hour, except it doesn't chime the number of hours. It just chimes on the hour, so you still don't know what time it is. Anyway,
you could turn that off.
I could, but it's all the way across the room, and
Oh.
it is. I can't walk that well anymore. So it's been a good Google Plus week. We're back in the swing of doing regular German practice hangouts, which is fun for me. I do it on Saturday and Sunday for beginners and intermediates, or intermediates and beginners, I guess, in that order. And we're going back out and recruiting new hosts for languages. So that, but we're excited. We have 75,000 followers in the community. So lots of people interested in learning to speak other languages. That's it for me.
Excellent. Kevin, how was your Google Plus week?
My Google Plus week was pretty normal. Nothing much happened. I'm enjoying the split up in Google Drive of the docs and spreadsheets and
Kevin.
I like it. I can't speak for everyone, but I like the split up. I'm hoping that the split up will lead to more features.
Good luck.
Yeah, inwardly I'm hopeful, but I kind of feel like
Considering they took away features, at least 2 features, when they rolled this out, I'm not optimistic.
What they get rid of?
That deserves an audible sigh right there. I don't know, but I do like the way it looks. I have to say, I like. I'm looking at the positives. I like the way that it has documents immediately that I just interacted with. I don't know. Slow week. That's it.
Okay. Cadeus, how was your Google Plus week? You're muted. You're still
My Google
muted.
Plus,
There you go.
yeah, my Google Plus week was interesting to say the least. I spent a lot of time doing a lot of Hangouts, experimenting, and yeah, so yeah, that was my Google Plus week, playing with Hangouts on air and the whole 9 yards.
Okay, we have this quick survey from George, who asked it, about 3 hours ago. Show of hands, who thinks that Google utterly sucks at communicating stuff to its users when it comes to new features? I certainly do. They always did.
I think we all agree on that.
Hands up right here. Yes.
I'm actually more on the line now than I used to be, and I know I used to be a massive critic of that. But, I guess I look at, okay, what new features have they rolled out that you weren't aware of? The Google Voice one, I think, was really poorly communicated, but this is for a feature that was really poorly used to begin with.
Honestly, I think they actually do a good job of talking about new stuff, but not in ways that absolutely everyone would hear about. A lot of times I hear about new features and they're announced, but the way I see them are from like Google Plus posts from like individual people who might have a lot of followers and they might not, and I might see them in my stream when they actually announce them, and I might not because I didn't see that part of the stream. I don't know.
I mean, I'll agree with some of that, but they're posting it in their blogs. For a lot of features nowadays, when you go to the service, you get balloons popping up telling you about the new service. What do you want? If they're, I'm not saying they're doing a wonderful job, but what more are we looking for?
I just want more. That's what I want. That's my answer. I just want more.
The problem is, Kevin,
I don't know what I want, but I want it now. That's what I want.
But Kevin, here's the problem. If they did give more, we would click through it without reading it.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
we'd still be uninformed.
I want a rainbow explosion of announcements to my screen. But honestly, you know what I want? I want more print advertising, and I want more billboards, and I want more TV advertising, showing some of these features. Honestly, I'm serious. I know it's totally old school to talk about it, but if you can just put a 30-second ad in a Super Bowl TV commercial, it's gonna hit millions and millions and millions of people. It just is. It's old media has not gone away, so I want to see more of that.
Dan, how was your Google Plus week?
My Google Plus week was exhausting. We were delayed 24 hours with the newspaper, as I said earlier. We had an issue in North Carolina, and then an initial issue in West Virginia, and that one got fixed, and we got it out, and it hit stands tomorrow. You can look on my profile on just go to danmcdermott.net, and you can see the local paper. I highly recommend the article on the regional jail, which is completely hysterical and just awesome. It's a true story about a lawyer who was trying to interview his client, and he ended up getting basically incarcerated for a while. It's awesome. It's a must read. And I want to address the Ebola thing that Pam alluded to. My oldest sister was born in Ethiopia. My middle sister lived for 2 years in Zimbabwe, where she had her twins, who I adore, my nieces. I lived in Monrovia, Liberia, on the west coast of Africa, where a lot of this Ebola outbreak is happening. I highly recommend the Vice documentary that just Google the Vice Guide to Liberia. and watch every single part of it. I've been to most of those places. I've met people like that, and I was there, and it's real, it's accurate, it's like a 60 minutes quality thing. It's awesome. And I just want to say that it's important to remember, just because something appears to be looking like a care commercial from the 80s, these are real folks just like us. They're husbands and wives, their children, their grandchildren. They're real folks. Just because their culture is different, their economic background is different, they're from a different country, and maybe they don't speak our language. These are people just like us who want the same. They have the same aspirations, the same hopes and dreams. They want, a relationship. They want kids. They want a white picket fence. They want a dog, a cat, and always try to view it in that context. And it's hard because it's a different culture, but they're people just like us. I've lived in 20 or 30 different countries, literally, and I can tell you that everywhere I've gone, most people are really cool, and they're funny, and they're smart, or they're dumb, or whatever, but they're just like us here in the United States or in Europe. And it's important to always view these stories in that context. People are people. We're a single species. We look different. Some of us are darker, lighter, taller, shorter, fatter, skinnier. We're all the same. We may speak a different language, and Michael can attest to this, but we're all the same once you get to know them. And having lived in many of these places, including some of these countries that are dealing with this Ebola thing, and Pam's right, that's a rough way to go. Basically, I think your internal organs liquefy. It's like basically getting a 10-foot spider bit you, and it's awful.
Your cells basically burst.
And
it lyses your cells one at a time,
Look,
on a grand scale.
Give me the 30-second version here. Basically, don't your internal organs liquefy, and blood and the remains
it's a
pour out of
hemorrhagic.
all of your orifices?
Yeah, it's hemorrhagic, and I have to tell you, there are hemorrhagic versions of E. coli. In fact, that's a very terrible way to go as well. It's very virulent, and once the cells start breaking apart like that, it's just, once you lose so many of your cells, it's just really difficult to recover from that. You know what I mean? So it's bad, and it's a virus. It's not a bacteria, so you can't take antibiotics.
Pam, do people actually live through it?
Yes. It is not 100% fatal, so people do live through it. It's about, I think between 60 and 70%, maybe 65% fatal is, if I remember.
That's a better survival rate than I thought.
I can double check it real quick. It'll only take me a second.
And of course the thing is, what is the definition of survival? In other words, what condition are you in after you've survived for it, right?
So once the virus is, if the virus is cleared, you have time to it says up to 90%.
Fatal.
It's rough. Yeah,
the disease has a high death rate, often between 50 and 90%. So yeah, my 65 was right kind of in the middle. So, but once the disease has been cleared from your body, if you have time to recover, most of your organs can regenerate. The heart has a hard time. Cardiac cells don't regenerate very well. Cartilage doesn't regenerate. So, and there are a couple of other organs. Your liver might be permanently damaged. Your pancreas, stuff like that. But most of your other cells, you can grow. You can recover from. Yeah.
And also, one important point to make is that's awful. But my main point was, when you read these stories about some far off continent, remember they're folks just like us. And I've been there. I've lived there for 2 years, and they're just like we are, and they have the same aspirations. And these are human beings dying. It might be your next door neighbor, and don't think of it as some far off thing you don't have to worry about or whatever. Not that Ebola is going to come.
I'm telling you, in today's global the ease of travel, so to speak, the chances of Ebola coming here are pretty good, you know. So yeah, I don't think it can't happen. Any one of those aid workers down there, not AIDS workers, aid workers that go down there to help out or whatever, could come back.
We do always try to end on a positive note on this program. But I hear you. And speaking of AIDS workers, I wanted to make the other point that something that was mentioned, and I think we talked about it, and I talked about it on the radio last week, was that much of the international expert AIDS community researchers, the doctors who were looking into this, were killed on that flight because there was a major AIDS conference headed, I think, to Australia. I can't remember. But a lot of them were killed on that flight that the Russians supported. Allegedly, the Russians supported separatists in Ukraine shot down. And so, you know, really smart folks. And that's awful. And so, I mean, there's a lot of bad news. And my last thing is I'll be discussing that plane crash and whatever else they asked me to talk about tomorrow at 8:07 a.m. Eastern time, just right after CBS News. I'll be on. No.
Sorry, Dan. 11:07 Eastern time.
11:07 Eastern. Now there's a good listener. I appreciate it. 11:07 a.m. Eastern, 8:07 Pacific time, Eastern time in the morning, and I post it on my profile and on my YouTube channel, so you can watch it. And it's on Huffington Post. But it's on. If you want to watch it or listen to it live, it's just go to VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com. Click on any of the stations there, and it's simulcast. But yeah, this was a rough week in a lot of ways. You know, some good news, some bad news, and so on. Alan Furstenberg, in an undisclosed New York location. How was your week, sir?
It was pretty good. I was in the city this week doing a presentation for the Google developer group there, talking about what went on at I/O. So I got a lot of good feedback on that. So that was fun. We have. I just want to wrap up, and I think we're at the wrap-up point finally. I want to wrap up with this comment from Cy, who talking about the new Google Plus features that he hears about. He always hears about them from this this great show called the Google Plus Week TV show.
And we appreciate that. And one last a question for you, Alan. If someone's interested in developing apps for Google Glass, what book might they get, and where might they get it?
They might get Designing and Developing for Google Glass by Alan Furstenberg and Jason Salas. Currently available from shop.o'reilly.com in ebook format, with a printed book coming out later this year. And
I am obviously...
We just published an update to our to the ebook, so you should have. For those of you who have already bought it, you should have gotten a notification from O'Reilly that it's been updated. Go ahead and download the latest copy.
Is the update free, Alan?
Sorry, Michael?
Is the update free?
For those of you who have already bought the book, yes, the update is free.
And if I go buy the book tomorrow, do I get the update included?
If you buy the book tomorrow, you will get the current update along with every future update that we make to the book until its final release.
Beautiful.
It's really a fascinating and unique way to publish something, to basically use the Google approach, where we're going to just, throw it out there in beta and rely on the community to offer input. And I've done my part, right? I haven't finished, but I think it's neat. Compared to other things where it's like they spend a bunch of money and time and effort, trying to polish it up. But in this case, it's like we throw it out there and folks can update it, and like the actual release is a year from now or whatever. Any thoughts on that, Alan?
That's part of the reason why we went with O'Reilly, is we know they've got a very good commitment to their authors. They've got a great commitment to their readers. They trust their readers. And they know that, in a lot of cases, getting the information out fast is better than waiting for it to be perfect. And in the process, our readers are going to see it achieve perfection.
And as
So
Google,
they'll see it, they'll get the information they need now, and as we update it, they'll be getting the latest information.
and as Google enthusiasts, we can appreciate that approach.
Yes.
Well, except for the fact that we're taking the step of actually improving it.
Wait, that was a dig just then.
I think it might have been, yeah.
Might have been a dig.
It might have been.
Thank you all so much, very much for watching. This program is Google Plus Week, the longest running show on Google Plus, and we appreciate you so much for watching and commenting. We love that, and this is a blast. We do it. We're all volunteers. It's a money and time sucking hole that we adore, and like I said in the beginning, what else could you possibly do on Friday night other than watch this tech show? Thank you so much. We are here every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. 8:30 Eastern p.m., 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Also, our other program, Our Android Week, is Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And we want to thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Another Google Plus Week concludes, and we'll see you next time. And until then, have a wonderful Google Plus Week. Thanks.